friends, welcome back to my channel. I'm Xoxo, this is Xoxo Tarot, and in today's pick a card reading, we are going to be looking at what harmful / toxic cycles are you actively breaking or could break if you see yourself in the cycle or see this cycle outside of you and have the desire to change it. I kind of just wanted to focus in general on, going more deeply into something that's talked a lot about, that we talk a lot about in the spiritual community, which is breaking, generational cycles, breaking, cycles and patterns of behavior that don't serve us, that, are passed down to us. And I just thought it would be a powerful opportunity for you to see how you're already doing this, and also just see that your work is worth it, and the power that comes in just making the choice to act differently and to not succumb to a cycle that is not only harmful to you, but harmful to all of humanity. So thank you for being here, and thank you for being part of the change. Let's go ahead and talk about what we're going to do in this reading today. So we're going to start with the energy check, which is going to be at first the toxic, harmful cycle that you are breaking, or that spirit is posing to you as a cycle that you have the power and ability to break. And we're also going to look at what you're replacing this cycle with, whether you consciously realize it or not. And if you are wanting to break this cycle, what you can replace it with, what would be healing to replace it with. So if that resonates, then you found the right reading for you. I mean, the only way this reading wouldn't be for you is if the cycle being talked about you not only can't relate to, but you have no desire to be involved in healing, which is totally okay. It's just not your role. But feel free to pick more than one group, especially for this one, because it is quite possible you're working on breaking more than one. But once you have found that it is your reading and we have identified that cycle and what you're replacing it with, we're going to use the tarot deck you chose to go more in depth. So we're going to look at how to break this cycle if you're not breaking it already, or if you are already breaking this, how you can take your actions further and break it even harder. So if you're already doing that, then that's a sign you're doing everything you can, and to give yourself a bit of a break, or to just acknowledge that you're doing the best that you can, and the rest that's up to you, is to just be patient with that process. Speaking of the process, we're then going to look at how you can support yourself through this process, because breaking cycles is not an easy thing to do, and it often involves regression and frustration and setbacks, and none of those things are bad. All of those things are signs that you're on the right path and you're doing a great job. But it's nice to know how we can help ourselves through that process, because sometimes we don't even realize how hard we're working. After that, we are going to look at evidence of the cycle being broken that you'll witness. So essentially, how you'll know the work you're doing is working, and how you will see the evidence of your hard work in the world around you. I thought that would be an exciting thing to recognize. Maybe it's already in front of you and you just haven't realized it yet. Then we're going to get a message to you from the souls of those you're helping by breaking this cycle. So these could be future generations that haven't incarnated on Earth yet. This could be ancestors that played a role in passing this cycle down, that were unable to heal it themselves. This could be souls on the Earth right now that don't have the ability to break it themselves, but will positively benefit from your involvement. I just kind of wanted to leave it open to any soul that it benefits from your work, and just give them the opportunity to show their gratitude and whatever they want to say to you. And then we're going to finish off by looking at blessings and positive outcomes that are only possible because you are making them possible by doing this work. So I really hope this reading will be satisfying and meaningful. It's a bit experimental, but I hope you guys enjoy it. I'm sure it'll be, a more niche topic, but I find some of the most meaningful readings are pretty niche. And yeah, I hope this is for you, and I hope that you enjoy it, and I hope you get something out of it. So with that being said, we have 3 different groups for you to choose from today. Starting with group number 1, we are going to be using the True North Tarot, and I have this aura-coated fluorite stone on top. And then for group number 2, we are going to be using the Accurate AF Tarot, and I have what I believe is a calcite on top, likely a pink calcite. It's priced like a calcite, but it could be an agate. It's either a calcite or an agate. I think it's a calcite, especially given like the pattern right here. But if you have any ideas, feel free to share them. And then finally, for group number 3, we are going to be using the Chakra Wisdom Tarot, and I have this golden healer circle on top. So with that being said, go ahead and pause the video if you need to decide which pile you feel most drawn to. Like I said, it's absolutely okay to be drawn to more than one. And even if you're drawn to all 3 of them, that's okay. You could be responsible in helping break all 3 of them. But intro squad, sound off. We are going to be making a wish on the sun candle today. I felt like the sun energies would just be great for the topic we're talking about and bringing some positivity and joy and lightness to what is usually a pretty heavy topic and one that, you know, we often have very little resolution on. But before we make this wish, I need to use code ASO10 for 10% off to get more candles because I am running out. And if you'd like to do the same, feel free to check out Angelic Magic 888's website where her candles and my candle line are available. But with that being said, we're gonna go ahead and make a wish. And what I would really like to hear from you guys is, how are you already being the change you want to see in the world? I'll contribute a little myself. One way that I am being the change I want to see is extending more grace to the frustrating shit that I see other humans doing in the world. Because I know that I can be a frustrating person and I can unconsciously contribute to that too, like every other person. And I feel for me, you know, sometimes it's really easy to get caught up in the aspects of human behavior that we can't control. And, you know, the actions that we just can't fathom or understand why someone would do that. And instead of trying to understand it or condemning it or judging it, I'm just trying to be more forgiving and understanding and recognizing that I don't have to judge anyone for what they do. I don't even have to judge myself. I don't have to judge at all. And in fact, that's quite liberating to just not have to judge and to accept things as they are, people as they are, even though we wish they were different. For me, accepting that things are as they are and accepting what I can't control so that I can put more emphasis and focus into what I can control. And one thing I can control is regulating my own nervous system when it gets shot by seeing some of the most stupid bullshit I've ever witnessed in my entire life, which if you're on the internet, you know exactly that feeling. But I'm sure you see it in the outside world too. And me even calling it stupid bullshit is judging it. So I'm gonna go ahead and forgive myself for making that judgment and say that it is just stuff that people are doing and try my best to be neutral. But yeah, how are you being the change you want to see? What cycles are you already in the process of breaking? Maybe I'll touch on them later in the reading. It would be cool to see you comment on something that I end up talking about or talk about something that, you know, this reading doesn't mention. I'm sure there are plenty of you breaking cycles that won't be mentioned here, and it would be awesome to see you guys hype each other up and just share, you know, what we're all going through that maybe we don't see every day, because, you know, we're living our lives and are all in different corners of the world. So that being said, if you want to go ahead and focus your energy on the candle now and make your wish, I am going to go ahead and do the same. If I can light this damn candle without burning my fucking finger. Only did a little bit. One change I'm not trying to be is I'm not changing my dirty mouth anytime soon. That's healing for me. The word fuck is healing for me. If you get it, you get it. If you don't, you don't. All right. That being said, we're going to go ahead and get into the reading now. So once you have picked your group or groups, the timestamps will be below. I've forgotten how to do my own intros. Thank you guys so much for being here and for giving me the opportunity to read for you. I'm so excited to see what is going to come through. Thank you for being a badass. Thank you for being part of the change, and I will see you in your reading. Hi there, Pile 1. Welcome to your reading, and thank you so much for being here. If you guys chose the Aura, Fluorite, and the True North Tarot, this is going to be your reading on the harmful / toxic cycles that you are currently breaking, or that Spirit is giving you the opportunity to recognize that you can break should you want to. And even if you don't, that's okay. We're all learning and we're all growing. So we're going to start by looking at what this cycle is and what you are or can replace it with. And if this resonates, hits, you found your reading. If not, I would try a different group. Full breakdown in the intro per usual. But starting with the cycle itself, we have the underworld. We have, I forgive myself for neglecting others in an attempt to avoid being asked to share more than I feel I am capable of sharing. I choose to believe that when I am open and honest about what I am willing to give and when, I strengthen the bonds between myself and those that I love. And we have the Fool. And what you are replacing this cycle with, we have Service. We have I am willing to change. I am willing to release old negative beliefs. They are only thoughts that stand in my way. My new thoughts are positive and fulfilling. And finally, we have the Crown Chakra with the theme of awareness, which is very fitting. The trigger statement is, I never get what I want. And the truth statement is, I am a powerful creator. Listen to your inner voice. Release your ideas of the outcome you wish to see and trust that you are aligned with the universe. So alignment is definitely a very strong theme here. And what I want to say as I'm talking about these cycles is that I don't want you to feel any shame or embarrassment for engaging in these cycles. There is nothing to be ashamed or embarrassed of. It's literally just an aspect of being human. And so when I'm talking about it, I just don't want you to feel like ashamed or embarrassed because, first of all, you may not be directly engaging in this cycle. For some of you, it may just be something that you witness or something that you've been affected by, but for others, it may be a cycle that you're actively in, and I want you to know that you are not a bad person or wrong or evil for, any cycles that you like. You're doing the best with the knowledge you have. Be gentle and be kind to yourself, please. Okay, so let's start. I have a lot of different interpretations for these cycles. If all of them resonate, great. If only some of them do, great. Take what resonates. So the first cycle that I'm seeing is one that relates to you versus the world at large and how we deal with the darkness we see. The cycle that's being highlighted here is one of willfully ignoring or choosing to ignore your own personal impact on issues or undermine your own impact to change certain issues because the darkness and issues of the world seem so much bigger than yourself. What is the point at the end of the day? One aspect of this toxic cycle that I think is seen a lot just in the outside world is, someone that's trying to make a difference, maybe speaking out about something that's important to them or protesting about a particular cause or, creating donations for a particular, charity or something like that. And then there will be people that are like, you only donated that much, or they're like, what's the point? It's not going to help anything anyway. There's always going to be problems. And it's kind of like just this all or nothing idea of like, there's always going to be darkness and suffering in the world. So what's the point of focusing on our own personal impact to help it? And I could see this manifesting within you in a way where you could maybe have ideas of how you could help, and then you stop yourself because you don't want to be judged. Like I'm hearing in my head, no good deed goes unpunished. And while that's unfortunately true, that doesn't negate the impact of what you're doing. I saw this really incredible movie recently from the 80s called Legend. It's got Tom Cruise in it. It's a very cliche, but cinematically beautiful movie. And it's all about the forces between good and evil, right? A lot of very cliche archetypal themes. And unicorns are a part of the story. And the little goblin characters, they call the unicorn a one-horned mule or like something like that, where it just really, they're describing the unicorn in terms that, are meant to degrade it and see it and treat it as if it's something bad or wrong, which it is to them because they like the darkness, right? But it's still a unicorn, and its virtue, its value, its purity is still there, and its power is that strong that they need to talk about it that way in order to feel like it isn't so significant. And unicorns are a powerful symbol of purity, of innocence, of uniqueness, of love. And I think it's really important to remember that just because not everyone can see the impact and results of your work, and maybe not even you, doesn't mean it's not worth it. I feel like it's really easy to succumb to this idea that, you know, our impact doesn't matter, or that, you know, our ability to change things is negligible anyway, or we can't fix the problem, so what is it worth? And then that just leads to looking away in ways that, you know, not only don't help the problem, but make those who could actually make the problem a little better or create positive change feel disempowered, or feel like their impact wouldn't be enough, so what's the point of trying? So that's one cycle that I'm seeing. Another cycle that I'm seeing is more personal. One where you intentionally neglect your own shadows, the depths of yourself that maybe you don't want to face because they seem so much bigger than you. And instead of looking at them, they manifest in your behavior in very risky and self-destructive ways that keep you not only disconnected from the people you love and care about, but keep you stuck in a cycle of self-loathing, where you know that your actions and your behaviors are not the truth of who you are, but you can't help but judge yourself by them because that's the only thing you're seeing within yourself. And because you're only seeing the results of the self-destructive energies you haven't looked at within, you know, the actions that come as a result of not addressing them, it's a lot easier to cultivate beliefs about yourself that aren't true, like that you're a piece of shit, which you're not, or that you're useless, or that you're a degenerate, or that, you know, you're beyond saving, and that's just not true. And I think another thing as well is another cycle that could be here is seeing pain and suffering in others and wanting to be able to help, but being literally incapable, or feeling overwhelmed by that notion because you feel like you don't have the ability to help, or you feel like you know, you just don't have the energy or the resources, which could be very valid and real. And that element of it is not the toxic part. The toxic part is the idea that that you're completely incapable of giving in general, or that that you're obligated to give more than is necessary. I feel like there's almost like this threshold of, well, you should either be martyring yourself for a cause you care about and putting your all into it, otherwise you don't truly care, and your effort is negligible. That's just not true. There's a lot of egoic bullshit around helping others, about service, about creating change. I mean, there's no quote I hate more than "the road to hell is paved with good intentions," because what the hell is the road? Where does the road go paved with bad intentions? Where does the road go paved with no intentions? I think it's a fucking cheap way to just say that trying to create change and create good things in the world isn't worth it, and that's just not true. We know what doesn't work because we see it in the world around us, and the process of creating change is making mistakes and realizing what doesn't work either. I feel like there is this societal pattern of living in willful ignorance, because when you live in that ignorance, you don't have to look at how your actions contribute to the darkness around you. You know, for example, overconsumption. It's really easy to, you know, buy some plastic clothing off of Shein and not see, you know, the results of, you know, the horrible conditions the people making the clothes are in, you know, just consumerism in general is an excellent example. You know, the results of those that are, you know, mining things, that are creating these things for cents on the dollar and having their labor be exploited, you know, but then at the same time, it's like, well, on the other side, our labor is being exploited, and we need to be able to afford things and ethically made things. You know, there's that phrase, there's no ethical consumption under capitalism. I'm not here to judge the validity of that, because I don't know, but I think that there is a lot of truth to it. But does that mean that we can't make the way that we consume and use things more ethical? Whatever the answer to my question, I got lost, so I can't say what the answer to that question is because I don't want to negate myself. The point, or contradict myself, the point of what I'm saying is that any effort towards making an issue better or towards making a change is worth it, and that's part of what you're replacing this cycle with. It's easy to turn away from the hardship of the world because, first of all, it's being shoved in our faces every single day, and it's also, I wouldn't say being conflated, but I would say the human mind is not designed to be inundated with that much suffering and horribleness on a daily basis. I think that that is a unique issue in our day and age, and I think that when a problem seems so much bigger than us, it's natural that we're overwhelmed by it and feel like we can't do anything. But I think it's important to remember, especially in your cases, you're changing this and healing this, which is incredible, is that nobody doing more than you is ever going to be criticizing you. And it's a lot of those people that have problems with people giving back and serving their communities. What are they doing other than bitching and being part of the problem? You know, they are the best example of those that reiterate this cycle just because they buy into the idea that things can't change, or that service is bad because you might get something personal out of it. Like people saying that service is selfish because it feels good. Like, that's not selfish. That's just a positive benefit of giving back to others. Like, there is kind of this tendency I see, especially like in chronically online circles, to just negate any good intentions or purity that humans have. Maybe because they're in a place where they don't want to believe that that can be real or true, or maybe they feel guilty that they're not part of the solution, and so they have to justify why in order to feel better about themselves. I don't know, but all I do know is that you're being part of the solution here, and what's really cool is that you're being part of the solution by taking a step back and recognizing that however you serve is enough, and that you don't have to fix a problem in order to truly serve and help it and make the world a little bit better. You are not responsible for fixing all the problems of the world. You know that song, "We didn't start the fire, it was always burning since the world's been turning." And you're not responsible for the problems of all of humanity. You don't have to, be the spokesperson and representative for why all of the problems in the world exist. They are so much greater than us. And you also don't need someone else's approval or validation to know that how you serve is helpful and worth it. Though it does help, and though it is, affirming, you don't need it. You are changing the cycle by being aware of what is within your control and using your ability to create and take action in constructive ways that are helpful. Even if they don't resolve a problem entirely, maybe they reduce the burden. It's like, you may not be able to eradicate an issue, but maybe you can be part of soothing it. There are a lot of issues that are so beyond us and beyond what information we have right now and the ability of, what humans are consciously aware of right now. But I think one of the important differences between you and those that are contributing to this cycle is that you're making the hard choice to be aware of how you play a role in it, consciously or unconsciously, and what you can do to mitigate or reduce your role in it, or even create a role that reverses some of that harm. But also, like I said, this cycle can be about internal harm, or seeing harm within others that maybe you don't want to acknowledge or call out because maybe it's uncomfortable, or maybe you don't want to open that can of worms. You could see maybe someone in your life struggling or suffering, and you don't know how to help them or address it, so you just pretend like it's not there. And the truth is that we can only help people as much as they want to be helped. I know in my work as working in mental health and addiction rehabilitation, somebody can have all the resources in the world to help them, but they are not truly going to change until they want to change. And I would say that there's a lot of cases, and I'm sure anyone that works in a field like that, there are a lot of cases where the person getting help is just going to go back and repeat the same destructive cycles because they're not truly ready to change. But that makes your effort no less worth it, and it makes trying to help them no less worth it, because maybe the 5th, 6th, 8th time they go through treatment, it's the time that finally sticks, and it's the time that they want to. I think that it's really easy to give up on ourselves and on humanity when we see the problems that are so far above us and believe we're powerless to stop them. And in truth, we may be powerless to stop them entirely. But I think how you're healing this cycle is recognizing that your power does not come from fixing the issue or eradicating it or proving a point to the naysayers that say it's not possible, but rather recognizing what is aligned and healthy for you to contribute in terms of service without overextending yourself, without martyring yourself, and recognizing that that's enough, that you don't have to say, absolve yourself of all physical things and never buy a thing again and never participate in capitalism. Like, we live in a society, you know, to never participate in the systems and structures you're raised in is a unrealistic ask. But maybe you can be more discerning about the companies you buy from. I'll tell you guys, I have gotten so many emails from Temu asking for a sponsorship, and I never respond to them, and I always ignore them because I want them to waste their time and resources thinking that maybe I'll respond to them someday. But I do not, and I will never use a platform like that. I will not, or you know, a site like that. I'll never judge you for using that, because I understand like accessibility and prices of things are really challenging. But even just, you know, consciously recognizing where you could be, like, where you can just make small incremental changes that are more helpful, you know, those are powerful. And honestly, my toxic trait is that I just wanted to talk shit about Temu because it sucks. And also, well, I just, you know, with stores like that, it's just like, we all deserve better, don't we? We all deserve better. And I think it's kind of sad. Like, for example, sites like Shein and Temu, they've stolen some of your favorite creators' work. The Hermit Tarot, for example, her channel messages deck, Shein stole her deck and sells it and uses her hard work and gets away with it. Like, shit like that is bullshit. One way that you can be part of the change is by supporting her and getting her deck directly instead of getting a cheaper alternative from a snaky ass corporation that doesn't care about human creativity or the well-being of its workers or the people they provide products for. But, you know, it's not just those sites that do that. I mean, it's other companies too, but I'm just using it as a very, you know, detailed example, and just one example of, like, you know, how it can be easy to just be like, well, everybody's using it anyway. What's the problem if I use it, you know? I mean, the problem, I guess, is up to interpretation, but, you know, you can be part of the solution if you want to. You know, for me, I am not in a position where sites like that are a necessity, and so I will never give them my money because I would rather support, you know, companies that, while their products might be more expensive, are made more ethically and use my, you know, access to, like, knowledge to vet companies and find more sustainable, better options that are more helpful for the planet, better for your health, you know, just stuff like that. And like I said, that's just one example. This is an overarching example. I guess it's just the one that I wanted to talk about, because voting with your dollar is a very real thing, right? And I think in your case, you're recognizing that you don't have to let people outside of you determine what sorts of service and what sorts of positive contributions are valid and what sorts aren't. I also think that you are becoming aware of the fact that your own darkness is not something to be ashamed of or hide, but rather you can't hide from it. When you ignore it, when you detach from it or try to pretend it's not there, it only reveals itself in risky and foolish behavior that leads you to believe things about yourself that aren't true, to be harder on yourself, and to make it more overwhelming, to look at yourself with compassion and recognize that these actions do not define who you are. They are just a reflection of what within you needs love, care, concern, and to be addressed. I definitely think that how you are healing this cycle is realizing that a lot of the beliefs that held you back and made you feel powerless to change these cycles are not true, but rather just part of the greater challenge of seeing through, you know, those barriers to healing, to resistance, to looking at darkness and not running away or wanting to avoid or ignore it, but rather recognizing its part in the human experience, and recognizing that it's not your job to fix it or eradicate or eliminate it, but to rather, you know, balance it out the best you can and do what you can to make the world a little bit better than how it was when you came into it. Your impact is enough, and you don't have to fix something entirely in order to help and contribute. And I think one thing that you're realizing is that the awareness of your impact and the awareness of the problem itself and the willingness to face and engage it with honesty and with acceptance is a powerful, powerful thing that not many people can do right now. And it's a very necessary thing that we need in this world. So thank you for doing it. And please, please, please don't ever listen to anyone that tells you, you know, what you're doing isn't worth it, or if the changes you're making aren't worth it. And you know what? If you're a small business, or if there is a cause that you are really passionate about, or if there is something that you are contributing to change about, comment it down below. I'm not able to have links in my comments because bots will use it to post pornography. I hate having to say that. But if you talk about charities that you're involved in, or just causes you're passionate about, or ways that you can help, you know, small things that make a sustainable difference, you know, just things that you're passionate about and small ways that you can help or are helping, feel free to share them. You know, you might inspire other people, and I would love to hear it too, because I'm always down to make the world better through my actions in small and big ways. So thank you to everyone who shares that. But let's go ahead and get into your tarot now. I know that was a little preachy. I apologize. Actually, no, I don't. I am pretty preachy, and that's part of it, baby. But in general, you know, I think it's just you're realizing that your contribution is enough, and other human beings can never be the judges of the value of that contribution alone. A lot of times the contributions that we make have subtle improvements that we never get the benefit of seeing, you know, or we plant those seeds to benefit future generations. And but that makes the pursuit no less worth it, and the awareness of what you're giving no less valuable. And the awareness of just what you're giving, and the awareness of your ability to impact things positively, is a really special and powerful thing, because there are a lot of people that are aware of issues in the world but are unaware of how their own actions contribute to it, or unaware of how they play into those cycles, or even they are aware of it but believe there's no point in changing it, or that they're powerless to change it, so they just engage in it anyway. You are embodying the phrase being the change you want to see in the world, and that's a really, really badass and important thing. So thank you for doing that. Okay, so we're going to start by looking at how you can break this cycle if you're not already. If you are already breaking this cycle, we're going to look at how you can take this further. And if you're already doing this thing, then you can be assured that you're doing all you can, and that's enough. So Spirit, how can group number 1 break this cycle, or go further in breaking this cycle if they are not going as far as they can already? Beautiful. We have the Sun. So I really just think that what you can do to break this cycle is to focus on the light, to focus on the positive, and to focus on what is literally in front of you, you know? Focus on what you can see clearly, which is you can see clearly the impact of what you're doing. You may not be able to see the results of that impact, but you can recognize that what you're doing matters. I also just think, though, having a positive attitude. Ooh, okay, I gotta. Okay, so there's this blog called Doomsday Debunked, and I highly recommend it. They're on Substack. I highly recommend it if you are really struggling with, you know, the scary reality that we're living in. Not only have I found it just really helpful for dissipating a lot of like, oh, nothing will ever get better, like, because we can all like engage in this cycle, like, let's be clear, like that feeling of hopelessness. But also, one of the articles that I read in there talks about how humans are a lot more likely to create change if they believe that it's possible to create that change, if they have an optimistic outlook on their impact, and an optimistic idea of what can be fixed. It's when we think things are doomed, or that things nothing. Bleh, I cannot talk. We believe that things are beyond saving, or that, you know, we're just entirely doomed, that it makes humans not want to make change or contribute at all. So the power of your own positivity is incredibly powerful, and the biggest way you can create change is to honor the purity that comes from your heart. Like, you know, what causes did you care about as a child, and what would your child self do? Like, that comes from a really pure place. And while children, you know, aren't able to do a lot in terms of like maybe material impact, or you know, leadership of adults and stuff like that, you know, their hearts are in the right places. And the beautiful thing is that you can mix that, you know, that magical aspect, that child within you, with the adult that knows how to take concrete action in ways that a child couldn't, and bridge those together to create positive results and also inspire others to do the same thing. I also think another way that you are breaking the cycle, or can break this cycle, is to choose to see the good in the world, and to choose to see the good in your actions and the good in the actions of others that, you know, we may not see because they're not being broadcasted. You know, if you think about, like, there are good things happening every day, all the time. There are small acts of kindness, big acts of kindness, miracles that are never really shared, because when they are shared, the motives and intentions are questioned, right? You know, people say, well, why are you sharing this? Are you just doing that nice thing for clout, or blah, blah? You know what I'm saying? So a lot of people keep those beautiful, meaningful things to themselves because they don't want the beauty of that to be torn down. And that's understandable. But what happens is that we miss out on a lot of beautiful things that we would never get to see or hear about otherwise, because the news certainly isn't going to talk about them. There's so much love and positivity and healing and joy and warmth that exists, that is contrasting a lot of the darkness and a lot of the fear. And you can play a powerful role in showing people that, and also showing people that service doesn't have to mean fixing something. Service can mean doing what's aligned with you and doing what you feel in your heart is best and supportive for what you care about. I definitely think in general, though, the most important and impactful thing you can do is not let the pessimism and doomer mentality that a lot of people have, fuck, my amber just went out of my ring, override any goodness or positivity or hope you have for humanity in the future. And not only hope, but hope doesn't have to just be a fickle idea. Hope is created by your actions and by your convictions and by your willingness to not give up and by your determination to let the light bring to the surface what others are unwilling to look at, to make things so clear and so obvious, to make your impacts, to make the truth of your personal impact so apparent to you that no person who is stuck in this cycle could feed you any nonsense that deludes you into thinking your impact doesn't matter, to making you feel like the positive things that you're witnessing and creating are not worth it or are negligible, to make you believe that your work isn't worth it. It is worth it, and you're doing a wonderful, beautiful, amazing thing. The sun is literally responsible for life as we know it, and you are part of making life better and part of making life livable by just healing this cycle. So thank you for doing that, and just know that even if you can't take action, even if there is nothing that you can physically do, know that your belief in that things can get better and that solutions can come and that things can change for the better, and that when you have, and that you can have, that you may not have like the resources or the tools or the actions or the time available to take it now, to know that you can have it in the future, and that when the time is right for you to step up in a certain way, you'll know it, you'll feel it, and it will be authentic and it will feel good. You know, healing a lot of the darkness within the world is not about eradicating it, it's about bringing it back into balance, because there's a lot of places in life right now where it just seems like there is no tolerance for hope or for positivity, and it's understandable where that comes from, and I have compassion for that perspective, but I also think a hopeful perspective is necessary to move through the deeply scary and challenging things we're facing as a human collective. And we need your positive outlook and your belief not only in yourself but in the goodness of humanity too. If you believe in the goodness of people, that's one of the best things that you can do. And if you believe in the goodness of your own impact and you're at peace with how you're contributing, that's enough. So, Spirit, how can pile 1 support themselves as they break this cycle? What could we do? Things that excite you, and also give yourself permission to be impulsive, to be reckless, to be flawed at times. You don't have to have it all figured out, and you don't have to have a detailed plan before you take action. I feel like this Knight of Wands is encouraging you to not overanalyze or intellectualize what you're doing when you feel inspired to do it. I mean, obviously a little bit of like discernment could be helpful, but I think a lot of times you may overthink the value of your contribution or whether the action you're contemplating taking is worth it. And I think what you should just be doing instead is listening to the passion behind the intention and letting that lead you, and not needing to understand what the outcome of these actions will be or whether or not they'll have an impact. You may not even see the impact of them. They may not even be, and honestly, the impact may not even be for the recipient. It may be for you, the giver, and it may be something to just remind you that the actions you take are worth it and impactful. I think if anything, you need to listen to Nike and not my 4th grade teacher who had beef with Nike. She used to say all the time, don't just do it. Think about what you're doing. And that's valid advice for a room of 10-year-olds. But you are not a 4th grader. You are an adult, because you have to be an adult if you're watching this. And you have the ability to take action, and you're wise enough to take action that is not going to be wildly destructive. I think you have enough discernment within you to know whether an action is helpful or not. And I think part of how you need to support yourself is giving yourself grace for impulsive or reckless action that maybe you partook in when you didn't know any better, or that you partake in because you are regressing. Giving yourself grace for that and recognizing that just like everyone else, you're still growing and learning and you're not going to be perfect, but also recognizing that you don't have to have an explanation for why, for all of the things you feel compelled to do, for the action you feel compelled to take. I also think, though, traveling could be really supportive for you. Maybe doing things like retreats or service work that involves you traveling or involves you working with other people. I think that could be really beneficial as well. But more than anything, I think the best way you can support yourself is make sure you're not inundating yourself with negative narratives that make you feel disempowered or make you feel like your impact doesn't matter. A lot of that is just coming from, fearful people who are stuck in this cycle that just don't know that they can be part of breaking it yet. And, part of you taking action and not listening to it is not only rejecting that cycle, but also being the change and being the evidence of the fact that those sentiments aren't true. And you don't have to live with those beliefs as your truth, and that you can have hopeful, positive thoughts that are not only, positive, but also fulfilling. So now I want to see evidence you will see that the work you're doing is working and that this cycle is being broken. So what evidence will pile number 1 see in the world around them that will show them the work that they're doing is working or making a positive impact? We have the 8 of Wands. So I definitely think that the evidence you're going to see of these changes is going to be more so internal than external. I think the evidence you see outside of you is going to be heavily dependent on your circumstances and what you're taking action towards, and how a lot of things like that. But the real evidence you're going to know you're breaking this cycle is that the internal resistance you have towards taking action towards things you care about and dedicating yourself to healthfully serving things you're passionate about and creating change, you're going to find that you have a lot more energy to do those things. And the reaction time between impulse and action is going to be fluid. Where it might have taken you a long time in the past to maybe speak out about something you care about, your passion for the topic and recognition of the value of your voice is going to be something that allows you to just share freely and accept whatever comes with that without holding yourself back. You're going to find that it's just a lot easier for you to take positive action, not only out in the world, but in your life in general. You're also going to find that a lot of problems within you are struggles or challenges that you've been dealing with on an internal level that maybe you felt like you just can't fix them, or you can't change them, or they'll never get better, you'll realize that these small actions you take every day are actually not only giving you more energy to give more of yourself and to be more of yourself, but also like it's just so much easier to address things that once felt impossible to face. You're also going to be seeing the light and the value in the purity of your actions, like the value in trying anyway, the value in not giving up, the value in perseverance, and the value of not getting stuck in analysis paralysis. If you're someone who gets stuck in that, or someone who really struggles to follow through on action out of fear, or feeling like something needs to be perfect before you do it, you're gonna know that you're healing this cycle, and that this cycle is breaking, because you no longer are weighed down by that. You instead are empowered by the knowingness that it is better to try than to neglect the issue entirely and pretend like it doesn't exist. Part of what maybe is draining you is the fact that maybe on a soul level, you know that you can have more of an impact, or that you can change more than you realize, but you're just afraid of the darkness you might face in the results of doing that, whether it comes from outside of you, or whether it comes from uncomfortable experiences within you as you face it. Ultimately, you're going to find you just have a lot more energy, and taking action is a lot more effortless. You don't even think about it. It's just an authentic impulse that it's inspired. You take your inspiration and you put it into action without needing to have it approved by others, or having to filter it, or, test it in a million different ways before you go for it. You're just going to feel the thing and do it. And I think what you're going to realize is that you don't need to be so rigorously defensive of any action you might take, because you'll realize the action itself is way more important than holding back. And I think you'll also realize that it just feels good to do, and to keep moving, and to do what you can without dwelling on what's outside, what's not within your control. Because I think that's a lot of what weighs you down. And I think a lot of what you can't change keeps you feeling like the action you do take doesn't matter, when it so does. And I think how you're really going to see how much it matters is in changing your thoughts into new positive and fulfilling ones. It makes all the action you take more fulfilling. You could take the same action. Let's say you do the same action when you're stuck in the cycle and when you are healing the cycle. And the difference between the two is that when you're stuck in the cycle taking the action, you're going to question yourself, you're going to judge yourself, you might hold yourself back and maybe not even do it because it diminishes the value. You diminish its value, you're going to feel like it's not good enough, or feel like it never is enough. And then in the healed version of you, or the version of you that's replacing this cycle with healthy ideas and healthy beliefs, is going to recognize the action I'm taking is enough. This is what I'm being called to do. This is what is aligned with me. And I'm going to trust that this is my role to play. And I am going to give other people permission and grace to figure out their own role and not analyze that. It's really liberating yourself from a lot of things that have kept you stuck, and from moving in the directions that not only, fulfill your heart, but set your spirit on fire, on passionate fire for humanity and its evolution. So now I want to get a message to you from the souls of those you are helping. These souls could be future generations, they could be recipients of the help you have yet to give, they could be ancestors that were part of this cycle, anyone that will benefit, past, present, or future, from the changes you're making. So what do the souls that benefit from pile 1's hard work and changing this cycle want pile 1 to know at this time? What do they want pile 1 to know? We have the Lovers. It's so beautiful. I think the biggest thing that they're saying is thank you, and that they love you, and thank you for being the change and the healing, and for making choices that, rather than cut down or dehumanize, uplift, support, and show not only yourself but the world around you that there are people with loving intentions, there are people that make choices out of love, and that the choices you make out of love don't need to be justified. I feel like they want you to know that they are behind you and they are with you, and that every time you make a choice from a place of love, from a place of authenticity, from your heart center, heaven cheers you on. Your ancestors cheer you on. Your future generations cheer you on. There is a cacophony of cheers every single time you make even the smallest decision to choose love over fear, and to choose acceptance over ignorance, to choose being the change instead of believing you can't. Your choices really matter, and don't underestimate the small ones you make, because even the small ones you make are having powerful ripple effects for not only the people in your life, but the people that are affected by the people in your life, by those people. I mean, there's a ripple effect outwards that comes from you just making choices from a place of love and from a place of, I would rather try and do my best than pretend like the issue isn't there and neglect it entirely. Not only are you, like, in healing this cycle, you're healing it within yourself and out in the world, where you're showing people that you don't have to have it all figured out, because none of us ever do, and you don't have to know everything in order to make a positive difference. You don't have to be an expert. You don't have to be, the perfect beacon of service. You can just be you, and that's enough, and that's powerful, and that's important. We all serve in different ways, and it's not up to other human beings to determine what the value of your contribution is. It's up to you to recognize and see that your contribution has value, and when it comes from a heartfelt place, that's enough. And I think all of the souls that are standing behind you and grateful for what you've done, they just want you to know how much they love you, how grateful they are for what you're doing, and they just want you to know that every time you make that choice out of love, you are living proof and a living embodiment of the goodness that is within every person, and evidence of divinity within form that we may miss otherwise because we're too busy looking at or ignoring all the scary things that we see in the world. Finally, I want to see any blessings or positive outcomes that you are making possible, that are only possible because you are making these changes and because you are creating this healing. So what blessings and positive outcomes will be possible as a result of the work Pile 1 is doing, please, Spirit? We have the King of Cups. You're creating a more compassionate and understanding world. You're creating a world with the Nine of Swords on the back of the deck, where people don't just listen to their minds, where people realize that love is a stronger force, and that emotional maturity is sometimes accepting what we cannot control while still focusing on what we can control. Emotional maturity in recognizing that the pain of the world doesn't stop because we just shut our hearts down. It just makes it easier to ignore. And that shutting your heart down isn't the answer, but rather keeping it open is the key to freedom here, the key to a more compassionate humanity. You're literally creating not only a more compassionate and emotionally mature inner world for yourself that allows you to take constructive action and be more supportive of yourself and your work, your impact in the world, but also recognize that immature behaviors that exist outside of you that could maybe at one point could have been enough to stop you from doing a kind act, or believe that what you're doing is not enough, so why try? You're going to see that for what it is and not accept it anymore. The power of your heart, I think, is creating a blessing where you realize you don't always have to have it figured out in order to be moved in powerful ways to ground solutions that you couldn't have consciously thought of, but rather Spirit guided you to because you trusted your intuition in your heart and y'all co-created it. Not only that though, but I feel like This is also creating an environment for yourself and for others to recognize it's safe to be emotionally vulnerable. It's safe to live in the world and have an open heart. It is safe to feel, and not only is it safe to feel, but it's important to feel, because it's those feelings that inspire us to change. It's those feelings that we need in order to know that our impact is enough, even though we may not see, or our minds may not get the validation we're looking for to know that our impact is worth it. Our impact is worth it because the notion is there. Our impact is worth it because we're trying. Our impact is worth it because we're not giving up, and we're seeing something that needs our assistance, and we're doing what we can without sacrificing ourselves. You are creating a world where more people can tune into their hearts without having to explain why. You're creating a world where more people can realize that they don't have to abandon their hearts in order to survive. That in fact, their hearts are necessary navigators in this life and can help all of us make more aligned and supportive decisions for not only ourselves, but for all of humanity. You are helping yourself find truly heartfelt fulfillment. And in doing that, you are making it possible for others to do the same and paving the path to help them realize that a lot of the things that will fulfill our heart most are not material objects or a certain milestone, but rather the knowingness that you are waking up every day and doing your dang best and living from a centered place in your heart where you live in alignment with its values, and you live in alignment with what's true, uplifting, positive, and fulfilling for you, and becoming a representative of that out in the world, so that others know that it's not only possible, but that it's powerful and can make a lot of the problems that we feel are within us or outside of us that are beyond our control or beyond saving, that maybe they are possible to save or to help or to be balanced or to be dissipated, and that pursuit in of itself is noble and worthy, and it's an incredible, powerful thing to even try, and you're a badass for doing it. And the blessing of you healing this cycle allows you to not only be a leader, but an inspiration for those who need someone like you to show them that way is possible, and help them set themselves free from a life that makes them feel like they have to avoid themselves or avoid hardship or pain to feel okay or comfortable. So pile 1, that is where I'm going to leave this reading. Thank you guys so much for watching, and thank you so much for letting my ads play in the background. That is one of the simplest and easiest ways to show appreciation and support for my channel. But if you would like to do that in other ways, you can like this video, you can comment down below, let me know how it resonates. You can subscribe if you haven't already, click that little notification bell to be notified whenever I upload a new reading. You can check out my candles, be sure to use code ASA10 for 10% off. You can check out my merch, my social media. You can check out other videos, especially ones with extendeds. But that is all I owe you. You could like, comment, subscribe. That's also very helpful. Thank you to everyone who does that. But that is all I have for you guys. So thank you so much for watching and for letting me read for you. I really hope these messages resonated and brought you the clarity you were looking for, or at the very least made you feel inspired and hopeful about your impact in the world. I hope you all have a wonderful day or night whenever it is that you're watching this video, and I hope you'll come back and see me again soon. Bye! Hi there, pile 2. Welcome to your reading, and thank you so much for being here. If you guys chose the Calcite stone and the Accurate AF Tarot, this is going to be your reading on the harmful, toxic cycles you are breaking or are meant to break, if you recognize a cycle and you want to be part of changing it. So full breakdown of the reading in the intro, but we're going to go ahead and start by looking at the harmful / toxic, whatever you want to call it, cycles that Spirit wants to address. So for that, we have the Eternal Child, we have Judgment, and we have the Child again. I forgive myself for feeling as though there exists a person that could replace me. I choose to believe that I have a gift that no one else is capable of sharing the way that comes naturally to me when I embrace my passion. And when I embrace my passion, I own my place in the world. And what you are healing / replacing with this cycle you're breaking is meditation. All my relationships are harmonious. When we create harmony in our minds and hearts, we will find it in our lives. The inner creates the outer always. And we have the sacral chakra with the theme of receptivity. The trigger statement is I am guarded, and the true statement is my heart is open. This is a time for you to receive new information. Open your heart to receive it. So this is a really interesting cycle that's coming through, because there are aspects of this cycle that are powerful and supportive and healthy, and others that aren't. I'm seeing a lot of different combinations here, so you may have to take what resonates and leave the rest, but I'm just gonna go ahead and get into it. So one big cycle that I am seeing here is a feeling of never being good enough, and also belief systems that are rooted in painful childhood experiences that have led you and others to conclusions about how relationships work, how life is, how people are, that cause you to go through life guarded, that make you feel like you have to hide yourself, that make you feel like you're not okay as you are. I mean, we see this everywhere. You know, the eternal child, like the book itself talks a lot about like this archetype being seen in celebrity. And, you know, there are a lot of pressures in that world to stay youthful, to stay attractive, to be this, you know, image of perfection that doesn't exist in the real world. And it is really harmful, not only for the person themselves, but for everyone who, you know, sees the person, right? There's a cycle here around denying important aspects of self in order to feel safe and accepted, and to spare yourself from judgment, that as a result makes you feel unsafe to relate to others, or feel like you will always be insecure in relationships, or that you have to be a certain version of yourself, or that you have to be perfect or go beyond what is humanly possible in order to be worthy of just decent, healthy relationships with others, and in order to have a decent / healthy relationship with yourself. I think that's actually a big key here, is that I think that you are constantly fighting against the strength and power of your inner child versus the wounds that that child version of you experienced, that you still have yet to process and release out of your belief systems in harmful ways. You know, when we are children, we are so vulnerable and open, and we are not able to protect ourselves the way we are as adults. And a lot of adult people, and you may be included in that, have beliefs about how people are and how life is based on how you or they were hurt growing up. You know, people that have only seen transactional relationships in their life may believe that all relationships are transactional. People that, you know, were abandoned as children may believe that they will be abandoned in every relationship that they're in, and every relationship that they're in, they have to constantly be working to avoid that abandonment, or be hypervigilant to ensure they don't get abandoned. You may have this belief that because you were rejected or abandoned, or whatever painful experiences you had as a child, you may believe that those experiences are direct values of your worth, and a complete and an example of what is only possible for you in relationships and in the world, and with your relationship with yourself. I also think, though, that there is this cycle here in the greater collective around youthfulness and perfection that is really suppressive to the spirit, and is like a never-ending trap. I think, you know, the pursuit of physical beauty, for example, and trying to stop aging is an excellent example of how this wound plays out in the greater collective. You know, look at any like celebrities, for our next one example, Brooke Shields has talked so much about this. Pamela Anderson has also been a great outspoken person about this. I would say they are both two people that are working to heal this cycle in the greater collective psyche, where they are, you know, standing up against these harmful, toxic narratives that because you age, that you're less valuable, or that you're only okay if you look how you look when you were 20, or you're only okay if you are beat to the gods and always looking incredible and always, you know, sharing this image like you're some level of unattainable perfection. And that's just not only is that not real, but it's also a horrible thing for anyone to have to believe about themselves. And it's so common for us to believe that we have to be physically perfect, or that, you know, we have to have no perceivable flaws, when in reality most people find authenticity refreshing. And the funny thing is that, you know, a lot like those two women, for example, are damned if they do, damned if they don't. You know, they could go down the plastic surgery route and do what society tells them, and then they would still be like, oh, well, they have too much plastic surgery. And it's never enough. And really what it comes from is a place of judgment and woundedness within the person judging them, not themselves. And I think that's a huge reason why they are a part of breaking this cycle, because they are not listening to that criticism. They are willing to be billboards for those types of issues and that type of criticism, and not let it overcome or deny their humanity and what they deserve. They are facing these issues with dignity by being true to themselves and by sharing how you know, those pressures and those expectations have affected them, and how they are not letting it win, how they are living their lives anyway. And it's really the only the people that are judging them and that are tearing them down, they're the ones that have to suffer with that reality. They're the ones playing into that cycle. Those two women are just excellent examples of who, like you, are breaking this cycle by recognizing your power doesn't come from actually reaching this ideal that doesn't exist, or showing people that you're worthy of their approval, but rather realizing that you were always worthy, no matter how you show up, no matter what you've gone through, no matter what trials, experiences you've had, and recognizing that you can have healthy relationships, and that starts with one with yourself, and that you can be open-hearted to the world and vulnerable with the world, obviously with some boundaries in place, and be safe. That it's okay to be judged, because it's only going to affect you if you believe it, right? And I think part of what you're realizing is that a lot of what you shamed and judged yourself for, a lot of the parts of self you've hidden, are not things that are truly wrong with you. They're just attributes that maybe other people in your life couldn't appreciate or didn't see the value of, because people are different. You know, you might have been told growing up that you were too sensitive, or, you know, another example, maybe you were taught that you had to be more ladylike. I know I was told that, and I swear like a sailor, and I'm doing just fine. A lot of the things that you're told are not necessarily true. They're just beliefs and judgments being passed down from one person to another. I think a big part of this harmful cycle is just this continuation of like dehumanizing ourselves in order to receive love and acceptance. And the sad thing is that we're not really truly receiving love and acceptance if we're not allowing our true selves to be seen. And it's kind of like this, you might be stuck in this cycle where it's like, you know that these pure things exist. You know that you're worthy of these things. You know that it's possible to find genuine people. You know that it's possible to have harmonious relationships. You know that it's possible to love yourself. But it's just hard to do in practice. It's hard to feel like it's happening. It's hard to feel like the pursuit of it will ever liberate you truly. And honestly, even within the pursuit of it, you may still have, aspects of this cycle still linger in your psyche. You may still have those fears, those insecurities, those worries, but the power and recognition that you're replacing it with has nothing to do with becoming what you think you need to be, or suppressing what you thought you had to, or sticking to beliefs that keep you safe and keep others out, but rather realizing that the most powerful beliefs that you'll have are the ones that bring you peace and honor your dignity and humanity. And not only that, do not cause you to feel like you have to hide who you are and the truest parts of your nature. One thing that you are doing to heal this cycle is recognizing that this cycle will probably be a part of your life your entire life. And especially as you get older, it will become even more prevalent, because as we get older, the inevitability of our mortality becomes stronger. We see the signs of aging. Life shifts, and how we look at the world shifts and changes. But what doesn't change is the eternal child within you. That spirited nature, those core aspects of who you are, those aspects of your essence that are just purely you and magic. Nobody can take those from you. Nobody could bottle those up and sell them, and nobody could express it the way you can. The child, the sweet little baby that you were born into the world as, you still are. You're just also an amalgamation of your environment, your experiences, your genetics, and how all those things interact. And none of that is bad or wrong or evil. All of it just is. And a lot of what we deem as bad or wrong is just judgments from society and just fearful rhetoric that we hold on to because we've had past experiences that proved it to be true, at least in that moment, and we haven't had enough experience otherwise, or the ability to ground a level of sovereignty within ourselves to recognize that we don't have to rely on relationships outside of us to determine our value or to make us feel safe, but rather our safety lies within us. Oh my God, and this literally makes me think of this thought that I had the other day. One big thing, for example, that I would say, I see this pattern in myself where I was a very fearful child, and I'm still a very fearful adult. And it's very hard for me to go out into the world and do things and just be open, because like the anxiety of it and just the feeling of not being safe is so visceral that it gets really scary. But I feel the fear and I do it anyway. And one of the kind of like just powerful realizations I had recently was, I feel comfortable and safe in places where I'm loved. And I'm like, well, if I love myself, then I can be safe anywhere. And like, I thought about it and I was like, damn, if I love myself, I can be safe anywhere. And self-love isn't just, oh, I love myself, I'm gonna take a bath and give myself like a candle. But I mean, if you do want to take a bath and give yourself a candle, you can use Cody's 10 for 10% off. But self-love is so much more than that. It's choosing to do the hard thing, willing to accept yourself even when you don't want to, not allowing painful narratives that have kept you trapped in a cycle of suffering or stuck in belief systems that you're unworthy of living a life that you want. Like, I think of this all the time where, people say, oh, I'll do X, Y, and Z once I'm like this, that you can just do the thing now. You can just have it now. I think what this toxic cycle is really highlighting is a lot of unhelpful beliefs that keep us guarded in life in ways that cause us to miss out on living more fully, more deeply, and connecting with others and ourselves in ways that we wouldn't be able to if we stayed so guarded. And so what you're doing to change this cycle is you're not only humanizing yourself, but you're making it possible for others to see that they don't have to hold themselves to the same limiting beliefs society tells them they have to have about themselves. You don't need Botox to be lovable. You don't need a Bugatti to get laid. You don't need to achieve something or prove something to be loved, because you were lovable the minute you entered this planet, and you were lovable before you were even conceived, and you are lovable now, and you will be lovable beyond your earthly existence. You are love. And I think what you're doing to heal this cycle is recognizing that the what is the word I'm wanting to use? Your otherworldly power does not come from reaching a level of human physical perfection or just human perfection that doesn't exist. It comes from accepting your humanity and recognizing all the unique things about you, accepting those things and living in harmony with your truth and with what feels good for you. And also recognizing that, you know, a lot of what you want in life also wants you, and all it takes is you being willing to open up to it, being willing to potentially have it and lose it, or receive it and live with the discomfort of knowing that you could lose it, but even then, is it not worth it? But it's not even about loss. It's also about the fact that you don't have to live your life based on unconscious reactions from your subconscious wounds, that you can be a conscious actor in your life, and you can be in tune with yourself and support yourself in ways that you may not be able to if you are just focusing on surface level ideals that were passed down to you, or listening to the beliefs that your wounding taught you. It is easy to want to believe those, and it's understandable why we want to believe those, because it allows us to not have to grow, to not have to look at ourselves, to make sweeping judgments. But it also really sucks because we don't get to see a lot of the magic and beauty of life and of connection and of just being ourselves that we can experience when we accept ourselves more and are willing to open up not only to others but to ourselves. You know, we can only connect as deeply to others as we do ourselves. And I feel like every single one of you here has the desire to connect authentically and deeply with others, to feel like a part of something greater than yourself, and to be accepted for who you are. And I think that you are breaking this cycle by realizing that that starts with you. It starts by recognizing how your mind suppresses your heart, how your ego tries to protect yourself in ways that, you know, while they may be well-meaning, suppress the true you and make it hard for people to know the true you. I mean, you wouldn't want someone to fall in love with a fake version of yourself anyway. That's destined to fail. But I'll tell you what, there is nothing more powerful than someone seeing you for who you are and loving you dearly, and not despite it, but because of it. You are immaculate and sacred. And I think what you're doing to heal this is recognizing that no amount of, you know, painful experiences, rejection, abandonment, you know, dehumanizing ideals, they can never take your humanity away. They can never take your magic away. They can never take your creativity or your personal power away. It can never take your authenticity away. They can only delude you into believing that you have to hide those things. And the beautiful thing that you're doing is you're breaking free of that, and also making living life from a more conscious and intentional place more doable. And that's allowing you to be open to areas of life you wouldn't have been in the past. So for example, you might open yourself up to friendships that maybe you wouldn't have before because you were afraid to be judged or afraid that you would lose those friendships. You might open yourself up to romantic relationships again because you realize, oh, it's safe to have romantic relationships, and the right person, it might take me time to find the right person who loves me for me, but I know once I find them, it will be worth it. I know once I'm connecting with someone like that, anything less than that, I will be able to spot from a mile away, and it won't have the same grip over me. You won't be afraid. You won't be afraid in the same ways that you are currently, because you realize it's much scarier to live an unfulfilled, fearful life where you never get to discover all the magic that was at your fingertips, just waiting for you to recognize it by being open and trusting yourself, trusting it, and instead just living a life of what ifs and fear and hidingness and yearning for things that you believe you can't have when in reality you can. The things you yearn for, you can have. And not only can you have them, but I think you're in the process of creating them. The more your mind accepts not knowing, the more your mind trusts in the wisdom your heart has, the more you accept yourself, your quirks and your idiosyncrasies, and accept that you can keep yourself safe in the face of the unknown, in the face of rejection or abandonment, and recognize that as long as you don't abandon yourself, as long as you don't reject yourself, no amount of abandonment and rejection can truly stop you from living. It might hurt, it might take time to heal from, it might, take a minute to recover, but that's part of life. And it's those powerful experiences that lead us to the experiences our heart truly yearns for, where we feel truly connected with someone else, where we feel understood, where we feel okay to be ourselves, where we feel good just being here, and where we feel like we don't have to hide, we don't have to pretend, we don't have to uphold some ideal that was thrust upon us. We just have to be ourselves and hold the expectation that others be themselves too. Because even if people can't be as authentically themselves as you are giving them the inspiration to try and to realize that it's safe to do so. And I think what's really cool is that you are replacing this cycle of dehumanization of the self and others, rejection of self and others, of hiding from yourself and fearing others, and realizing that, the things within you, like all the beauty you see in the world around you is within you, and all the fears that you have within you are within others. And there's nothing more human than having these fears and dealing with that. But that vulnerability is what creates stronger bonds, is what makes people feel safe to let go of the falsehoods and open up more. You being receptive to what's within you and not judging it, but rather seeing it, witnessing it, and loving it because it's a part of you and it has something to share or teach you or be expressed through you in the world, you realize that a lot of the experiences that made you close your heart off in the first place had nothing to do with you or had nothing to do with there being something wrong with you, but everything to do with other people's inability to be their authentic self, their own discomfort with being seen, with being vulnerable, with being judged by others outside of their control. No judgment can ever truly affect you if you don't agree with it. And the judgments that you do agree with, that's an excellent place to look at where you can have more compassion and acceptance for yourself and look at how that judgment is not fair to you, that it is dehumanizing to you, and see what it really is. Oftentimes what's underneath that judgment of self is, an unresolved wound from the past, a fear of it happening again, a fear of, just not being accepted and not being worthy of the things your heart yearns for, which I would be willing to bet are just inner peace, acceptance, openness, vulnerability, just being able to live your life authentically. You're doing all of that. And the things that, and some of those aspects of self, people might say, oh, well, you're just being childish and you need to grow up. No, those people need to be a little bit more childish. They need to, well, not childish in a bad way, but, they've denied those parts of themselves, so they believe you have to give it up too, but you don't. There are aspects of your childhood self that you're going to carry with you your entire life, and that will always be expressed through your essence. But there are also parts of your child self that you're ready to release, and those are the more human parts of yourself that are less spiritual and more survival based. The lessons you learned in order to keep yourself safe as a child, you don't need those same safeguards. If anything, they keep you trapped and they keep you stuck. And you're healing these cycles. Because I think that there's so many examples of this, and feel free to share some examples of this you have in your life, but you're replacing this with mindfulness, with training your mind to be supportive of your heart and spirit, and using it to, you know, set good boundaries, to protect yourself in and around the world, to see love, to see kindness, to see acceptance, and see solutions that weren't there before, to face challenge head on and recognize that conflict is not a sign that you're failing, but a sign of, you know, more understanding and resolution to come. You can have a peaceful life, and you don't have to earn it. You can just have it. And I think that starts with being at peace with where you're at and who you are. And I think that's what's starting. And as you become more and more receptive to yourself, to what the parts of yourself that you've rejected or neglected, to the wisdom those parts of self have for you, to the new awareness that may come as a result of not judging yourself so hard or spending all your energy being hypervigilant or keeping the world out, you make room for new ideas, new insights, new wisdom, new opportunities, new connections, new experiences that are more uplifting and supportive of the person you're becoming. You don't have to ignore what your heart yearns for. You don't have to sell yourself short, play it small, or believe that your dreams are only accessible to you if you have enough money or the right physical appearance or enough friends. You can have what your heart yearns for, as long as you believe that you can have it and are willing to open yourself up in ways to receive it. You can't receive what you don't open yourself up to. And I think that you're really healing this cycle by showing people that it's not silly or foolish to believe in goodness, to believe in yourself, to accept yourself. And I think that you're also creating a level of internal peace through meditation, through mental training, that is allowing you to just live in the world in a more embodied way where you feel safe to do that, and you get to be that change that you want to see, and also realize that you don't have to stay stuck in relationships that are unsupportive of who you are, that force you to deny yourself. And also, you don't have to have a relationship with yourself where you deny yourself or reject yourself or betray yourself. That your best relation, like, you show yourself how you deserve to be treated, and the more that you treat yourself the way you know you deserve to be treated, the way your childhood self always deserved to be treated, the way you've always deserved to be treated, with kindness, respect, dignity, compassion, understanding, the more you have that within yourself, the easier it is to extend to others, and the easier it is to recognize who else in the world is capable of doing that. And so you will spend less time trying to receive love and acceptance from those who are unwilling to give it or don't even know how. You will spend less time wondering why certain people can't see you or accept you for who you are, because you understand that that has nothing to do with you and everything to do with what is unhealed within them and the beliefs that they have about their replaceability, about their worthiness, about their ability to be accepted. And it no longer has to have a hold on you. And as a result, you're free. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get into your tarot now. Woo. So we're going to start by looking at what you can do to break this cycle if you're not doing that already. If you are already doing things to break this cycle, this can just be guidance on what else you can do. But if you're already doing it, take it as a sign you're doing everything you can and you're doing amazing, sweetie. So, Spirit, what is pile 2 doing, or what can pile 2 do to break this harmful / toxic cycle in their life and out in the world? We have the 4 of Swords, solitude and healing. So I think one of the biggest things is paying attention to environments, people, communities that support these ideas that you have to hide yourself. I think one of the best things that you can actually do is give yourself time and space to not have to figure everything out, but to pinpoint what in your world communicates to you the things that enforce this cycle. So like, for example, I think a lot of stuff on social media can do that, you know. There are a lot of like, and it doesn't mean you have to like cut out social media, but maybe replace unhelpful voices that make you feel insecure about yourself with helpful voices about supporting and empowering yourself. That might mean taking a break or setting boundaries with certain people that make you feel bad about being yourself. And it may even just be giving yourself time and space to really just sit with yourself and listen to yourself, because sometimes it's really hard to understand what is truly us when we're drowning in the voices and energies of others, and you might be doing that. It might take time for you to listen to what's going on within you, or just have enough mental peace and rest to be able to even listen to what's going on. I definitely think one of the most powerful things you can do is, instead of trying to show others these truths, to ask yourself, what do I need to embody these truths so deeply that no amount of external rhetoric or judgment could sway my belief in myself and my acceptance of myself. I definitely think that if you are not spending enough time alone with yourself, or just not doing anything to get in touch with your inner world, that is what you are being recommended to do. And I also think that you're being recommended, meditation is a big thing. Like, I would really look into meditations around like self-acceptance, around training your mind to be still in general, finding ways to create mental rest, because it's a lot harder to observe yourself when your brain is constantly exhausted. It's hard to really have energy to choose differently or to be conscientious of our actions when we are just, running on empty all the time and doing our best to reach the finish line each day. I definitely think that part of your healing process in this is removing the external voices that make you feel not good enough in the first place, and that reinforce those ideas and those wounded beliefs that you're wanting to release already. I think that seeing those outside of yourself could just create an internal disharmony where your mind really wants to hold on to it and says, see, other people think this, but it's not about what other people think. It's about what you think. It's about what you believe and what you honor as truth. And I think the more that you distill what is your truth and what has uplifting meaning for you, what supports you, what empowers you, and what disempowers you, what beliefs make you feel small and afraid and feel like you can't, be yourself, isolating those voices in the outside world, restricting their access to your precious psyche, and giving yourself time and space to just go slow and be gentle with yourself. This is not something you have to fix tomorrow. This will be sort of a lifelong process. Maybe for some of you it doesn't have to be, which in that case, hell yeah. Maybe the possibility of that just comes down to whether you believe it's real or not. But what I do know is it's almost like you need almost like a stronger mental barrier to do the mental healing necessary to be more open, to follow your heart's wisdom, to listen to yourself, to heal, so that any destructive forces outside of you, whether conscious or unconscious, that could, thwart your progress and growth, can't get to you and can't, set you back further or make you feel like what you're doing was foolish or silly, because it isn't. It's really badass and important and powerful, and I'm really proud of you. Okay, so now I want to see how you can support yourself through this process of self-acceptance and openness to life and the beautiful things within it. We have the Ace of Cups, spirituality, fulfillment. Do things that set your heart, that just fulfill you, that make your heart happy. You know, whether it's reconnecting to things that you loved as a child, whether it's media, whether it's creative things, whether it's trying completely new things, whether it's opening yourself to love and romance again if you haven't in a long time, whether it's creating new spiritual practices, or just anything that gives you a sense of emotional fulfillment and like, yeah, this feels good and I enjoy this. This has a lot of potential to be something nourishing for me, or I feel nourished from this. Things that give you energy, all of that is helpful. But I also think Spirit is asking you to not push away any opportunities you may be given to experience joy and fun in the moment. You know, you don't need to be healed in order to go on a date. You don't need to be healed in order to go after that dream job you want. You don't need to reach some arbitrary milestone before you start living the life you want. You just need to start recognizing what's in the way of that, and what can you replace barriers. Where are the barriers in your life to joy, and where can you replace them with opportunities for fulfillment you haven't explored yet? I have a feeling that Spirit is going to be bringing these opportunities to you in more in tons of different ways. It's up to you to act on them. But the more you do, the easier it will be for you to recognize those opportunities and create those opportunities for yourself. And those could be so many different things. The only requirement that these opportunities have is that they are uplifting and authentic and fulfilling for the person that you are in the moment you're experiencing it. And whether it is fulfilling and uplifting for a little bit or for the rest of your life, you know, no matter what, it doesn't matter. As long as it's helpful for the time being, that's all you need. And I think just anything that allows you to just be in that energy of joy and not having to justify why you deserve to feel that way or earn it, and just recognize that there are opportunities everywhere and that you're allowed to not only seize them but embrace them. I think just giving yourself that permission will make it easier for you to recognize that the things you yearn for are not so far out of your reach. It's just an illusion. I'm thinking of, you know, the signs on car mirrors that say objects in the mirror are closer than they may appear. It's like sometimes your mind might think certain things are much further out of your grasp than they really are. It just takes a willingness for you to be open to uncertainty and see what happens. Okay, now I want to see evidence of this cycle being broken that you will witness. So how will Pile 2 know that this cycle is being broken? What evidence will they see in their world that they are healing this cycle and that this cycle does not have the same grip over them? So we have the 7 of Cups and the 5 of Swords. So you will see this evidence in your outside world based on the decisions you make and how your mind uses its creative abilities. You can use your mind to make all of your fears worse, to justify why you should hide, or come up with every terrifying possibility of what could happen should you open yourself up. But you can also use your mind to envision all the beautiful possibilities that could happen if you take a risk, if you do open yourself up, and also you will be conscious of the fact that you've gone through betrayal, you've gone through conflict, you've gone through hardship, you've gone through rejection, and you're still here. And if anything, those experiences have given you the ability to realize that you can face those things and face the unknown and come through okay. And they give you opportunities to be even more loving and accepting of yourself, and realize that these things are not judgments of your value or assessments of your value. They're just parts of life. I definitely think one element of this cycle being healed in your life is that you will be full of exciting possibilities and opportunities for where you can head and what you can create, instead of scary realities and, you know, the things that literally just make you paralyzed with fear because you don't want to experience them again, or because you know that you could experience them again. You know, fearful realities that keep you trapped and stuck are not going to be what occupies your mind. Instead, your mind's going to be occupied with all the exciting opportunities that you can take now that you're not self-sabotaging, and now that you're not betraying yourself, and now that you're recognizing your own role in living more consciously and putting yourself out there in ways that, you know, might frighten you, but are ultimately empowering and serving for the soul, and not just your soul, but the souls of others. And speaking of the souls of others, I want to get a message for you from the souls that are benefiting from this work that you are doing or will be doing. So these souls could be, you know, souls that haven't incarnated yet, ancestors that were part of this cycle, people in your life that may be a part of the cycle without realizing it, people that you may never know but will be positively impacted by your choice to do that healing. I'm leaving it open to all of that. So what do the souls impacted by pile two's work in breaking this cycle want pile two to know? And that came out super fast. What is that card? Ooh, it's the Six of Swords. I mean, this is first of all, this is a big thank you, but also I feel like this is specifically coming from your ancestors. You are healing a very powerful ancestral wound around self-acceptance and around being loved and being loved for who you are, sharing your real self. I definitely think that they're also wanting you to know, though, that you don't have to have a satisfying conclusion to every painful story you've experienced. You have permission to just let it go now if you want to. If you believe you need to have some sort of answer or closure in order to move on, maybe ask yourself if that's a beneficial belief. It's okay to have it, but in having it, the ability to let go and to be in a more harmonious mind-heart connection with yourself and subsequently others may be affected as a result. So I do feel like there is just this emphasis on not giving up and to keep going. I feel like they're really cheering you on, but also saying that you can give yourself permission to let go of maybe even wounding and pain that isn't necessarily yours but comes from your ancestors that you feel responsible for resolving. I feel like they're coming through to say that it's not your job to resolve it, that they've moved on from this world, and the only thing that you're responsible for resolving is whatever is stopping you from living joyfully, authentically, and lovingly in ways that feel good and peaceful for you, in ways that make you feel safe and allow you to have the types of connections and everyday experiences that you want. I also think there's a bit of an encouragement here if you're thinking about moving or changing your space or just traveling in order to help release certain things. I think that could be helpful as well. But I feel like they want you to know, don't hold on to rage and pain on behalf of others. It's not yours to hold on to. And they are giving you permission and the opportunity to look at where you may be able to let go of certain painful beliefs or, painful beliefs or painful stories that you may have that you don't need to hold on to anymore, that you may just be holding on to because you're afraid of what it might look like if you let them go, or you feel like you have to have some resolution first, or you have to have a satisfying completion or something to give you that satisfaction before you can move forward. I feel like your ancestors are saying it's okay if you want that, but that might delay your healing, and it might delay, you might not get that. And so that might be left unresolved. I believe that you could manifest that if you want that, but also you don't have to do any of that work. You can just let go of it now and not have to intellectualize it or understand it or turn it into a meaningful story for your mind. Maybe the most meaningful thing is just giving yourself a damn break and giving yourself the grace and the freedom to not be stuck in a story that doesn't allow you any inner peace or the ability to see how deserving you are of the wonderful things life has to offer that you recognize other people can have and other people are worthy of, but you may believe deep down you can't have, or it isn't worthy of you. You can let go and move on from any story or any belief that doesn't uplift you or support you. And you don't have to give yourself a reason why. You can just choose. You can just say no. I say no to this story. I choose to write a different one. But know that it's a choice and an option. You're not forced to. Whatever you know you need is what you need, and you should honor that. But finally, I want to look at blessings and positive outcomes that are possible and that will occur as a result of the work you're doing that wouldn't be able to occur if you hadn't done this or wouldn't be doing this. So what blessings and positive outcomes are being made possible because of the work pile number 2 is doing, Spirit? Beautiful. We have the 3 of Swords. You're making heart healing not only accessible to yourself, but to others. You are helping show people that the painful stories of their past don't have to write their future. You are showing people that you don't have to let your mind continue to write a story that hurts your heart before your heart has even been exposed to something painful. You're also showing people and showing yourself that the stories that felt insurmountable, the truths that you felt could never change, the wounds that you felt were a part of who you truly are, you will realize those are not the truth. They're part of the human experience, but they're not what is meant to define you. They're also not meant to linger in your psyche in ways that make you feel like you can't live life or that joy is inaccessible to you. You are showing people that you don't have to hold on to whatever painful experiences taught you that you had to shut life out, and that life is not safe if you're open to it, that having an open heart is a foolish endeavor and that it will always lead to more pain, because that's not true. It can lead to so much beauty beyond your comprehension. And not only that, you can show people that the stories they believe about themselves as a result of their wounds do not have to be the truth, and that their wounds can just merely be guidance markers to where we need to show ourselves more love and acceptance and compassion and support ourselves as we unlearn what we taught ourselves, what we believed about ourselves. And I think more than anything, you are creating the blessing of realizing that not only can you change at any point, at any moment, not only can you choose differently and choose from a place of empowerment and love and creativity, but others can too. It's not impossible for anyone. You are not beyond saving, you are not beyond healing, and you are not beyond living a peaceful, joyful, harmonious life with yourself and with other people who want the best for you and love you for who you are. The painful stories we reinforce with ourselves and share with others and, project out into the world are just stories, and we don't have to make them part of ours. And I think you're showing other people that they can rewrite theirs too and make it one that they're happy to be writing and see their own power in being a part of that creation, that life doesn't just happen to them and that they are an unwilling participant, but rather they can work with it and look at things in any way they choose. And not only do the things that, you're literally showing people and showing yourself how to look at life through a lens of love and through a lens of acceptance for the painful aspects of life, and accepting that those are there, but also recognizing the strength and the wisdom that comes from moving through and living through those experiences, the healing and connection that comes from connecting with people who've been through it too and understand it, and the recognition that it is so human to be stuck in belief systems that don't serve us and to want to trap ourselves or, you know, feel held back. If you haven't seen the 3rd season of White Lotus, a lot of what I talked about here is a lot of the themes we've talked about are touched on there. I'm not going to say anything about it because I don't want to spoil it for you guys, but I would highly recommend watching it. I think there's a lot of poignant things about the stories we tell ourselves, and I think what you're realizing is that you have the blessing of not only writing your own story, but creating your own closure, creating your own resolution, and creating the definitions of what you will live your life by. And in doing so, you set yourself free from needing to be defined by others, from letting others' wounds create beliefs about yourself that have nothing to do with you. And in a lot of ways, you're setting yourself free from the fearful things, from the fear that holds most people back from taking up space in the world and taking risks and believing in the unknown and believing in things bigger than themselves. You are and are meant to be evidence of love embodied, and how love can overcome even the strongest of fears and make doing things that scare the shit out of you not only worth it, but possible, and let those experiences become evidence of your power and evidence of the way that we are constantly changing and rewriting our lives. We have the power to constantly rewrite and change our lives in ways that empower us, are authentic to us, and allow us to be in harmony with our truths, no matter what's going on around us. So, pile 2, that's where I'm going to leave this reading. I have no clue if this made any sense. I really hope it did, but if not, thank you so much for watching and for doing your best anyway. Thank you so much for letting my ads play in the background. That's one of the simplest and easiest ways to show support and appreciation for my channel, so thank you to everyone who does that. If you'd like to support me in other ways, you can like this video. You can comment down below, let me know how it resonates. You can subscribe if you haven't already, and click that little notification bell to be notified whenever I upload a new reading. You can check out my merch, you can check out my social media, you can check out my candles, you can check out other videos, but that's pretty much all I have for you guys. So, you can like, comment, subscribe. Thank you to everyone who does that. Been a YouTuber for years and I still forget that shit. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching and for letting me read for you. I really hope this reading helped and gave you the messages you needed. I hope you all have a wonderful day or night, whatever it is that you're watching this video, and I hope you'll come back and see me again soon. Bye! Hi there, Pile 3. Welcome to your reading, and thank you so much for being here. If you guys chose the Golden Healer Circle and the Chakra Wisdom Tarot, this is going to be your reading on the cycles you are breaking. So if you'd like a full breakdown of the reading, there is one in the intro, but we're going to start by looking at the cycles you are already breaking, or Spirit is bringing to your attention that you can break should you want to, and what you're replacing them with. So to start, we have the Ocean, we have the Two of Pentacles, and we have, I forgive myself for feeling as though I must see it before it is safe to believe it. I choose to believe that what I choose to believe is a powerful driver of my experience, and it is safe to explore a perspective that is more aligned with the reality I seek. And then the healing and empowering truths you are replacing this cycle with are, or can replace this cycle with, are Smile. I have the perfect living space. I see myself living in a wonderful place. It fulfills all my needs and desires. It's in a beautiful location and at a price I can afford. Note this over and over again. And finally, we have the theme of Earth. The trigger statement is, I hate my body, and the true statement is, my body is a temple. Remember that you are a spiritual being having an earthly experience. Revere your loyal, sacred bodies. This is really powerful, and I have to say, this cycle is so human. It's so real. The main energy of this harmful / toxic cycle that I'm seeing that you're probably in, and that I think all of us have been in at some point, and that many of us fall into over and over again, is this feeling of being trapped, or maybe the reality of being trapped in circumstances, monetarily, financially, or just life-wise, that maybe you wouldn't choose, or that keep you stuck in circumstances you're unhappy with, but yet at the same time, it feels almost impossible or unbelievable to think of a reality where you could ever escape it, or where life wouldn't be that way. It's like the more, and at the same time, it's like without even realizing it, you overcommit yourself and spread yourself thin as a way to avoid the gnawing discomfort that comes with knowing you're living a life that's either too small for you, or living a life that is keeping you stuck in a pattern of living, or in a pattern of experiencing unmet needs that make you miserable, but also feeling too afraid or feeling literally incapable of making those changes. I know that's more of a complicated idea though. I think more so in general though, it's choosing the devil you know over a greater unknown. Choosing to keep yourself busy instead of acknowledging what isn't working and the scary reality that might occur as a result of acknowledging your own discontent, and also believing that your only fate is the one that you've known for a long time, and without even realizing that there's an ocean of possibility that you haven't discovered. But being open to that would require you to be open to an unknown that seems even scarier and more daunting than the reality you're currently unhappy in. I can definitely see for each and every one of you, there's this knowingness of that you're either playing it small, or that the cycle that you're in, the way you're living your life, isn't sustainable, but it feels impossible to leave, and it feels impossible to get out of. And the circumstances for all of you will be different, but what I do know is that there is no such thing as impossible when it comes to changing your circumstances. But one thing you may not recognize is that you could change your circumstances and get everything you want and still be unfulfilled and unhappy. And a lot of what most people that encounter this cycle don't have the blessing and curse of experiencing is going the lengths to make those changes, taking the risks, playing the long game if needed, doing what it takes to be open to different circumstances and take risks with the unknown, and then getting there and realizing, oh, that wasn't what fulfilled me to begin with. This wasn't what I thought I wanted. And even though it may make your life easier, you may be happy with your circumstances, there's still a part of you that's like, yeah, but I don't feel fulfilled. It doesn't feel like enough. And ironically, the more you have, sometimes the more we have, the less it can feel like we have. It's a weird paradox. And I think that what you're experiencing right now is life calling to you in ways where it's saying you may have certain material limitations, you may have certain financial limitations, but there are no limitations on the joy you can experience in the moment. There are no limitations on the opportunities and pathways for change that are available to you. And there are no limitations on how you can define your attitude and how you can handle your challenges in ways that support you and are gentler on yourself. Because one thing that I'm seeing here is that part of this unhealthy cycle for you is that I think a part of you deep down doesn't believe you're worthy of better, or believes that you have to overcompensate just to receive the bare minimum. And I think that you reinforce that idea by overcommitting yourself, by settling for less than what you deserve, by staying in jobs where you know you're not appreciated. Obviously, in this economy, it's understandable people be doing that even when the economy is great. I truthfully, what the fuck do I know? I don't know what the economy is doing. I don't know. I don't know anything about that stuff. But what I do know is that no matter what be going on the Dow Jones, the great universal spirit knows how to provide if we know how to receive and know how to be open to abundance. And abundance isn't just about finances. It's about being open to an abundance of possibilities, having faith in something greater than you and allowing that faith to free up more brain space to be creative or do things differently, for example. It's just one thing that I think the biggest thing with this pattern is that your soul is crying to break free and your mind is going crazy, or just like literally cannot handle that screaming, because your mind is like, these are the limitations we're experiencing. These are the circumstances and the factors we're under. I cannot see any pathway forward. I'm trying to just make ends meet every month. I'm just trying to get to the end of the month. How the hell am I going to focus on creating a new reality when I can barely create breakfast for myself? And that is so real. And your rage is valid and it's okay to be angry. But the point of this cycle is not about pulling yourself up by your bootstraps, quote unquote, and working harder. It's about actually taking a step back, being a bit gentler with yourself, having more compassion for your circumstances, and recognizing that when a new, more abundant and gentler reality is available to you, you will not be able to embrace it the way you think you will if you do not start addressing now what within you won't change no matter how your external circumstances change. There is a part of you that I think continues to choose what you know doesn't work because the thought of choosing anything different is overwhelming. And what if those different things lead to more loss and more suffering and more hardship? And that's so real. I think there's a part of you that maybe avoids this discontent by keeping yourself so busy that you're too tired to think about it, by, just trying to focus on making ends meet and focus on, doing what you need to do. It resolves you of the responsibility of having to deal with, how your attitude might shape things, how you could find joy even despite the circumstances you're in. And I honestly feel like an asshole saying that. And I kind of am an asshole for saying that because these are very real challenges. And it's completely understandable and okay to be angry, to be frustrated, to be exhausted, to not have the energy to even want to feel joy or to even consider that possibility. But the reason I bring it up is not because I'm saying you should just be happy. You're stressed about money, you should just stop and poop rainbows and be a unicorn and just be happy. Just be happy. That's not what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is that the limitations that you see as purely material run deeper than you realize. They are mental, they are emotional, and they are spiritual. And even when your physical circumstances change, all it's going to do is reveal what the physical circumstances were hiding earlier on that made you believe they could be resolved through just material gain. Now, there's material gain here, and actually a lot of it, but a lot of this material gain is not just a windfall of manifesting a ton of money or winning the lottery or something like that. It's more so acknowledgement and acceptance of where you're at, using your personal power to recognize the miracle that it is that you're here and that you exist, and to recognize where you deny yourself opportunities for joy or for rest because you don't feel you're deserving of them and because you feel like you have to be suffering in order to be enough. What you are doing and what you are meant to do to heal this cycle is to recognize how you make your life harder than it already is, because it's already hard, by denying yourself things that are essential in order to feel good as a human and to, live a life with dignity. One of the things that, overcommitting yourself does is keeps yourself in such an extreme state of stress, you can't really create or envision any new possibilities. You don't have the time or energy to. So maybe one of the compassionate things you can do for yourself is give yourself a day off, or maybe look at what things am I saying yes to that I really should say no to. Is the difference that they make in my life really that beneficial? Is that maybe the extra, couple of bucks here and there worth the intense stress that it's causing me? I think that there is a real belief for you that things can't get better, that you have to be different, or somehow because you were born as you and you are you don't have the same opportunities and experiences that everybody else does. And that's just not true. It's your belief that that's the case that makes it feel impossible and insurmountable, but it isn't. One of the things that I think is really challenging is the fact that you are under a lot of stress, and it's completely understandable why. And your ability to manage that stress, at least with support systems and tools, you may not have the access to the resources that you need to support yourself in the ways that you would like. But part of what this cycle is trying to show you is it's not about what you have in order to change your circumstances. It's about where your circumstances are at, accepting that, and how can you be as supportive and compassionate with yourself as possible? How can you still do what's in your best interests? And also, how does stress enable self-destructive behaviors in ways that keep you trapped and feeling like things will never change, and that this world of abundant possibilities is accessible to everyone but you? I think you say no to yourself before life has the opportunity to say it to you. And I think one thing you need to realize is that I think life wants to say yes to you in so many ways that you're afraid to open yourself up, but you're afraid to open yourself to the option of a no, of a door staying closed. But the way you are right now, every door will remain closed. Because even if doors opened and you reach new financial and material levels you've been striving for, you're gonna be just as stressed and miserable as you were before. Except now, you're just gonna have more stuff, and you're gonna have more abundance, and you're gonna feel like more shit because you're like, I have more and I still feel like crap. What's wrong with me? Am I just ungrateful? No, you're not ungrateful. It's just that you're harboring the belief that material gain is the key, or the material gain or a change in material circumstances, like having a different body or being a different person or living in a different place or being born with a different family, would give you opportunities that are inaccessible to you now. And while there may be truth in that, there are phenomena in the world about that doesn't make it impossible. And one of the biggest things that I think is important for you to remember is that you may just be too tired right now to be able to regulate and balance yourself. And you might need to give yourself permission just to rest. I think part of what you're meant to do in order to heal this cycle is to recognize that no matter what your material circumstances are, you will never feel good enough unless you start working on that right now. Unless you start peeling back beyond the material and looking at what parts within me make me feel like I'm not worthy of more beyond that. Is it because you don't feel good enough in your body? Do you feel like, does a lack of confidence in your physical appearance translate to a lack of confidence in taking new opportunities or putting yourself out there? I like to think of incels when I talk about this, because incels are an excellent example of people living under misguided and really harmful toxic beliefs that are not only not true, but so devastating and sad because they are not only creating that reality and enforcing that belief system on themselves, but also missing out on love and connection that would be available to them if they were just gentler and kinder with themselves and maybe had a less miserable outlook on life. You know, a lot of incel examples I've seen, you know, they're not like, they believe that they're hideous and ugly, and they're not even unattractive. It's just that their attitude and their personality is so hateful and deplorable, nobody wants to be around them. But it's easy to say, oh, well, it's just because my jawline isn't fucking chiseled like Chad's. Yeah, so it's totally not because I haven't showered in 2 weeks and feel entitled to things in relationships without connecting with anyone or being willing to, you know, have a positive thought like, people don't want to be around people that are that negative and hateful. And I'm not saying that you're negative and hateful by any means. I'm not saying that at all. But what I am saying is that the example that I'm using is an excellent example of how our beliefs can create a reality that isn't necessarily true, but that we believe is true, and creates so much more pain and keeps us trapped and stuck because of what we've chosen to believe and create. And I think for you, this translates in a way where you're like, well, I'm too tired to change or do anything differently. And you probably are too tired. Your nervous system probably needs a damn break. I bet you are stressed and you are fried. And instead of giving yourself that break, you probably, even if you gave yourself a day off, you probably don't know how to let yourself rest. That is one of the single most important things you can do if you want to make your life better, if you want to be open to new possibilities and opportunities. Your nervous system needs to be calm enough to be open to receive new ideas and new possibilities. You also need to have the brain space and the openness to look at things in a more positive manner that maybe you hadn't considered. It's really hard to see things in a positive light when you're constantly sleep deprived, stressed out about your circumstances, and feel like you're trapped and unable to leave the cycle of crap that you've been dealing with. It's so understandable why you feel the way you do, and you're not wrong in feeling like you don't have the energy and the resources to change that right now. But in order to truly change that, it starts with making small choices that are more beneficial for you in the long run. And I want to talk about this smile card, because I also feel like one of the things that you're meant to realize is that you are not meant to accept circumstances that kill you every day, that leave you in a state so stressed and frozen that you can't change or grow. And sometimes that starts with just saying, I need a break, or I need to make a change, or I need to start, blocking off my calendar once or twice a week and be disciplined with that time off and give my brain actual rest to know what that looks like. I would be looking, here's what I can say, Google is free. Things I want you to look into are breathing exercises for stress relief. Breathing is free. Hell yeah. You can do that shit all day. And also, I want you to look at tips for, I think it's somatic healing, nervous system healing, nervous system regulation. Those things are going to be essential if you are going to get out of your circumstances that you're currently in. If you keep doing the same thing over and over again, you are going to get the same results. And the saddest part of all of it is that you're not here and stuck in this cycle because you deserve to be, or there's something wrong with you, or you're just meant to live that way. It's just that you're dealing with a combination of life already being hard and you not having the tools yet to give yourself enough nurturing and care and compassion in order to start planting seeds for something different. But you are going to, and you already are. And I think one of the things that is going to be really pivotal for you is recognizing how important your health is when it comes to creating new realities. If you are dehydrated, if you are sleep deprived, if you have little to no nutrients in your diet, your body is going to be physically incapable of helping you ground and create the inspired ideas you get, and then they live in your head as a form of torture because you know them and you see them, but you're too tired to make them happen, and they become less and less real the longer they stay in your mind. I want to read this smile card because it makes me think of that song in the musical Annie. You know, you're never fully dressed without a smile. And I think that there is something to be said when it comes to how you carry yourself. And I think there is something within your energy that affirms your subconscious belief that you're not worthy of more, and that you are willing to settle and accept less than you know you deserve. That you sell yourself short, you undersell yourself, and you underestimate your value. And there are plenty of people who are happy to take advantage of that, who are happy to use that for their own benefit. And it may not even be malicious. It's just how some people are. But if you can't see that, if you can't recognize when you're being taken advantage of, when you are allowing the outside world to affirm those subconscious beliefs by not saying no when you have the power to say yes, by not giving yourself rest even when you have the time to, because you're spending that time worrying about what you can't control in that moment, or spending that time worrying about what you're going to do next, instead of giving yourself those precious few hours to sleep or to just turn your brain off. That's a skill, by the way. You might be like, I can't turn my brain off. There's a belief you got to work on, okay? Because you can. But the problem is that it's a skill that you have to build over time. And if you believe that you can't, you'll never be able to. Your motto moving forward should be, whether you can or you can't, you're right. And really ask yourself, why do I think I can't? Bitch, you're the little engine that could. Like, not only can you will. And I know that you are going to be led into a reality far more beautiful than you could ever imagine. And a lot of that is not going to come from working harder or doing more of the same things as you've already done, but rather taking a step back, regrouping, doing what you need to do to take care of yourself and get by for the time being until your body has recovered enough to be able to start creating solutions and being open to new possibilities you wouldn't have seen before. I highly, highly, highly recommend any Louise Hay stuff that you can get your hands on. Get it. Because I don't give a fuck whether you believe in it or not. Eat that shit like it is your lifeline. It will help your subconscious mind, even if your conscious mind thinks it's BS. And even if you think it's BS, that's exactly why you should open yourself up to the idea of believing it. Maybe it's that very belief that will open you up to an inspired idea that leads to enough energy and momentum to actually take action to begin a pathway that creates change. But one of the most powerful things you can do is see your circumstances right now and recognize that even when your circumstances change, if you don't acknowledge the internal things within you that can't be relieved and fixed with material solutions, the more you ignore them by just believing they will be fixed with material solutions, the ruder awakening you'll have when you receive all the blessings you've worked so hard for and put so much work into, and then realize, oh, I still feel the same. Your worth is not defined what you have outside of you. And I really think a lot of what is keeping you trapped is just the belief that you don't deserve more, and decision making that keeps you so exhausted that it's that much harder to have the time and energy to even, conceptualize changing your circumstances. I don't think that you need to make a complete life overhaul and a change tomorrow. I feel like, especially for some of you, you are in circumstances where the status quo is going to be the status quo for the time being. But that doesn't mean you can't make wise decisions about how you use the time that is yours and what you say yes and no to. If you are spending most of your time and energy just trying to make ends meet or getting yourself to a level of stability, you should not be saying yes to things that you do not want to say yes to, like going and seeing people when you don't feel like it, choosing to volunteer when you'd really just like to have a day off. Be selfish. this is your time to be selfish, because it is an extreme level of selflessness that has gotten you here in the first place. Well, one of the reasons. I mean, there's many reasons, and we're all in different circumstances in life, and there are lots of things outside of our control, but what is within your control is how you treat yourself, the type of attitude you choose to have, and how you choose to look at yourself, the world, your circumstances, and what you're worthy of. And the reason why I want to read this smile card, you know, that song, You're Never Fully Dressed Without a Smile, I think you underestimate how just a genuine belief in yourself and just a willingness to look at things in a more positive light, and to believe in good things happening for you, and to believe that you can feel goodness, you can feel joy now, and there might even be things accessible to you within this moment or within the next day, like decisions that you can make to just make yourself a little bit happier. Give yourself the freedom to do that. You deserve that. I think part of you feels like you have to punish yourself because you can't seem to figure out the way forward, when it seems like the exact reason why you can't find the way forward is because you refuse to stop punishing yourself and believe you deserve to suffer. You don't. And it's gonna really suck to get everything you want, get everything that you've been wanting and create that, and still suffer. And that is a reality that many people come to. I mean, look at some of the richest people in the world. All that money, and yet they haven't found a therapist. Like, you could have everything and still have nothing. You can be the richest person in the world and be so morally and spiritually decrepit that your life has zero fucking meaning, and you are just a menace to everyone else under your thumb. And all we can do is pray that those people heal. Anywho, let's look at this smile card. Smiling activates the relaxation response, calms your nervous system, and relaxes your facial muscles. You master your mood when you smile. Try feeling sad when you are smiling. Relax and be sincere. You and others know when you are pretending. Involve your whole face and smile with your eyes. You will feel better and inspire happiness in others. And when you make other people happy, people want to help you. When you have a good energy, when you bring a positive vibe to the room, it makes others feel good. It makes others want to help you, want to support you. And now I'm not saying your negative attitude is the problem. Like, dude, a negative attitude is easy. And I think that it's normal. And I think that when we have less time, energy, and resources to regulate ourselves, it's a lot easier to fall into that, especially when it's the norm and misery loves company. But that's all the more reason why you shouldn't give into it, and why you shouldn't allow yourself to accept that as your truth. Because there's nothing more powerful than being in your circumstances and recognizing that the material, like the amount of material and financial stability you have in your life is not the deterrent of whether you can experience joy and relaxation and peace or not. You deserve to be just as peaceful when you're in a financially strapped position as you are when you're in a financially prosperous position. However, a financially strapped position, it makes it a hell of a lot harder to feel peaceful and to trust. It is scary. It is one of the deepest human wounds that exists. And to think that you're just going to easily be like, I'm just going to smile. I'm stressed about my survival, but I'm just going to smile. That's hard. But that's part of what makes it so badass. And that's what makes you so strong and makes you ahead of the game and ahead of the curve and more evolved as a human being than those who do have that stability and still don't know how to cultivate that peace within themselves. You're essentially saving yourself grief by investing in yourself now. And investing doesn't have to be, like I said, a monetary contribution. It has to just be a willingness to work with yourself, with where you're at, with the resources you have, and be creative in how you can meet your needs, especially if you have limited time, resources, or a limited budget. It's not impossible. It might be harder, and it might be super fucking frustrating to look out in the world around you and see other people that have those resources and that can do things more easily than you can. You have every right to be frustrated. You have every right to find that annoying. You have every right to feel however you feel about it. But at the end of the day, none of that is going to stop you from feeling better about yourself. None of that is contributing to you finding solutions to get to a place where you want to be. None of that shows you and reminds you that you are just as worthy of being in that same position. None of that supports the joy and peacefulness that you could start cultivating now if you tried. And maybe that peacefulness isn't feeling peace, but just being at peace with being at peace and accepting the stress that does exist in your life right now, and just looking for the small ways to combat it, to make your life a little bit more peaceful. You know, maybe that is not getting on the internet at the end of the day and instead reading a book, or just giving yourself permission to go to sleep. Your conscious mind might really want that dopamine, but I bet you more than anything, it really just needs to rest. I feel like I could talk in circles about this, but ultimately you're meant to heal this cycle. And you're meant to feel good in who you are and where you're at. And you're meant to live a life and live physically in a place that not only fulfills all your needs and desires, but is in a beautiful location and a price that you can afford. You are meant to be in a place that supports and nurtures the person you're becoming. And you are meant to be in a position where you accept who you are and recognize that you have everything you need to succeed, and you have everything you need to feel joyful now. It just might involve some self-care and some patience with that process to get there, and be open to how you might make that happen, or how it might be easier to make that possibility a more constant part of your reality. But some of the most beautiful things in life that bring us joy are free. You know, sitting outside in nature and seeing the birds chirp, walking by a bakery and smelling all the beautiful assorted little things. Maybe you treat yourself one day to something, to a little pastry you always eye in the window. You know, maybe you sit outside and look at a parent and a child experience something new together for the first time, and see the joy in that child's eyes, and you know, the specialness of that experience that is so cool to them, but to you take for granted or haven't even recognized. It is a lot harder to see our blessings than it is to see what we're not happy with. And it takes effort and it takes work. And I think your only hope in getting there is looking at what you can do now to just take better care of yourself. Even if it's small, even if it's just giving yourself an extra hour of sleep, or negotiating your schedule in ways that are more aligned with what you need. I would highly recommend, there are a lot of great creators on TikTok, on YouTube, that have really doable, affordable, tricks and tips for eating more nutritiously on a budget. There's one girl named Kylie. She's awesome. I can't remember what her full thing is, but she always starts her videos with, I'm a dietitian and here's how I do XYZ. Her tips are really helpful and useful, and I use them. I think she's fantastic, and I know that she's just one of many creators out there that can help you and support you for free to get into a position where you can start creating instead of just trying to make up for a deficit you feel stuck in. Right now, the goal should be getting to a baseline and then building. But what you're gonna find is that the most powerful things you build will not come from sheer determination to see change in the material world. It'll come from a deeper energetic, emotional, and spiritual integration of self-love, of self-acceptance, of acceptance of your shortcomings, acceptance of this earthly world, acceptance of the circumstances we can't control, awareness of the circumstances we can, and grace and compassion for yourself as you grow and learn and get out of this cycle. Sometimes it's a lot easier said than done. And the process that works for you may not be the same as someone else's. But not giving up on yourself is powerful. And the way you're going to heal this is by seeing the positive. That doesn't mean neglecting or ignoring negative or what else is there. That's not saying be toxically positive, but at the very least, do the hard thing, which is have a positive attitude, or try to give yourself that grace, or think, what would it be like if I actually believed that things could get better? What if I believed in the beautiful things I think I see others having? What would that look like for me? It might be very confronting and it might be very uncomfortable, but you might find as you explore that, there are choices you can make here and now that would be more supportive of the life that you're creating, and that would make life less stressful and more joyful now. Doesn't mean you stop wanting things, doesn't mean things can't be better, but there are a lot of people that are far more joyful with less than those that have more. And I believe in the idea that money can buy happiness to a certain degree, but beyond that, it's pretty useless. You know, I think when it's meeting important survival needs, like, hell yeah, it buys happiness. It buys peace, it buys a sense of security, and that's a powerful and important thing to go up the hierarchy of needs, right? But you have the opportunity to not make what you have materially the sole factor in whether or not you're allowed to feel joy, whether you're allowed to feel hopeful, or whether or not you're allowed to care for yourself. You are always allowed to care for yourself. You are always allowed to envision a world where you have what you need and the earth provides what you need, where your body takes care of you and you take care of it, where it carries you to new places that are more beautiful than you could imagine. And not only will it carry you to those places, but you'll have the attitude to appreciate it, the openness to appreciate it, and the understanding that you are worthy of this, and that what a beautiful thing to receive those blessings and not feel like you're an imposter, or that you have to push them away, or that you're truly undeserving, because you're in real danger of that happening right now. And I think part of what breaking this cycle is recognizing that no matter how your material circumstances change, they will never truly feel different if you don't start to look at what's making you feel like the material path is the only way out of this. I think that what it really is a deflection from the internal needs that maybe could be met, that you just don't have the energy to address right now, and that's okay. It will get better and it will get easier, but that starts with you believing that it can, and believing that you're worthy of it, and worthy of the patience and the process necessary in order to start getting there. It might not happen in a day and it might take time, but as long as you don't give up on yourself, this can't miss you. This joy can't miss you in the present. This joy can't miss you in the future. And the life that you truly want, and the type of material blessings and the type of material life you do want to have for yourself, you will truly be able to enjoy and live and take advantage to the fullest in ways that other people can't, because they're still unwilling to look at themselves. It's like Spirit's giving you the opportunity to do some of the hard work now so that you can just appreciate what you've reaped later. No matter what, though, it's okay. You're still going to move through this, and you're still going to reach a more prosperous position, whether you feel good or not. It's just feeling good would make the process more enjoyable and less strenuous and less hard on your body. I mean, stress does kill you. And one of the things you can do to protect yourself is to just focus on stress management the best you can. I hope that makes sense. This one was pretty intense, but we got tarot to get into now. So let's do that. So we're going to start by looking at how you can break this cycle if you're not already, or if you are already in the process of breaking this cycle, what you can do to break it even further. And if what I talk about you are already doing, then know you are doing everything you can, and you should just give yourself a pat on the back for doing everything in your power. So how can pile number 3 break free from from this toxic cycle, or what can they do to further break free, support themselves in this process? What is the best thing they can do? I mean, come on. Are we kidding? Release attachments. I'm not going to be able to do it justice by reading it just out loud. So I'm going to read from the first ever tarot book I got. As you can see, she's been well loved. And I just want to read for you what the Devil card says. And we're going to look at it in every circumstance. The Devil represents bonds, commitment, temptation, and vices. There are two sides to the Devil card, the good and the bad, and both show up, no matter whether the card is upright or reversed. Let's start with the good. When the Devil appears in a positive reading, it represents making commitments. For example, a wedding, signing an important business contract. This tie should be lasting and binding, not something you can easily break. It is very much a good thing. So one of the things that you can do is make a commitment to something that is supportive of the life you're creating and not make commitments that deny it. The Devil can also remind you to enjoy life's pleasures. For example, a slice of chocolate cake after a long detox diet, or getting yourself that little pastry after eyeing it for so long. And the satisfaction and reward you feel in the tiny indulgence you worked hard for. In negative readings, this card can signify unhealthy bonds or addictions, toxic or damaging temptation, for example, infidelity, or unhealthy patterns of thinking. And I think that those are all examples of things that are holding you back, things that you can address that can help you heal. In love readings, when the Devil appears, it's a very important to look at the surrounding cards or pull a clarifying card if you're not sure what this card is suggesting. It can represent temptation, attachment, passion, and commitment to a relationship in a way that is positive, or it can hint at obsession, cheating, or unhealthy behaviors are manifesting. If you're prone to worst case scenario thinking, the Devil card could be flagging this tendency as your biggest enemy. So for example, if you always see the worst in what can happen and never the good, that's a great example. I have seen this card show up many times in relationship readings where one person is obsessed that their worst fears will be realized, which ends up sabotaging the entire relationship. And so I think that this goes beyond, this is an excellent example of maybe you're attached to someone that, makes you feel like you can't be, that your circumstances can't change, or you can't be more than you are, that you'll only be this. Like people that make you feel small and make you feel worthless, those are attachments you definitely want to set boundaries with. When the Devil appears in a career reading, you may be signing a binding contract or making an agreement that feels heavy or permanent. Sometimes this card appears when you feel like a slave to your job to the point where it's almost impossible to have a personal life. Yeah, I felt that going on. Other times, the Devil's appearance can show a working environment that is toxic, draining, or simply uncomfortable to be in, but you couldn't change it or leave it if you tried at this time. And so that's exactly why I spent so much time saying, look, there may be validity in that your circumstances can't change right now. And that's why focusing your power on your attitude and on the things that just make that experience so much worse for you, why focusing on that can make moving through this time doable until it is in the realm of possibility for you to make a lasting change that frees you. The Devil's appearance asks you to examine who or what the devil in your life is right now. If it is negative thinking, an unhealthy obsession, or toxic behavior or commitments, then it is time for you to cut them loose. However, this card can be a reminder not to be so hard on yourself. I'm going to say it louder for the people in the back. That life is meant to be both experienced and enjoyed. Treating yourself occasionally will not harm you, like I said. And sometimes rebelling against what you are supposed to do is good for the soul. The Devil is very stubborn, and this card can signify you're having a hard time letting go. You might want to consider seeking support or treatment to help keep bad behaviors at bay. So whatever in that resonated for you as, yeah, this is holding me back, or yeah, this is something that is keeping me stuck and keeping me trapped from what I want to replace this with, that's what you need to focus on addressing. And I would be less focused on trying to quote unquote fix it or eliminate it, and more so treat it as a project and a work in progress of undoing so that you don't overwhelm yourself or feel like it's impossible to free yourself from these things, because there might be intense change or circumstances you find yourself in that do require you to be stuck for a while or stuck in a certain position. And then that's where you have to pivot and look at, okay, well, what is within my control here? I can't leave this job right now because I don't have anything lined up, and that would be a terrible financial decision for me. But could I just be positive and maybe spend the time that I don't want to be at work fantasizing about the new job I'll have, or how happy I'll be, or how good it feels to not let my circumstances dictate how I feel on the inside? Sometimes that's the only power we have, and I think that in that case, that's one of the most powerful things you can do. I say, you may be able to control my circumstances, but you can't control how I feel about them. You may be able to control what I'm able to do in the material realm, but you can't control how I feel about it. You might try to hold me down or make me feel like I'm not good enough because of what I don't have, but I'll always have more than you because I see my value and I know that I can feel good no matter my circumstances, and I give myself permission to do that. Like, that's where your power is. Okay, next, I want to see how you can support yourself through this process. That is an excellent question, Past Me. How can pile 3 support themselves through this process of breaking free and undoing? Nurture yourself, nurture yourself, nurture yourself. If you have anyone in your life that is literally like a mother or a motherly figure, someone that nurtures you, someone that is generous with their resources and with their time, someone that likely already offers you their help that maybe you push away or deny because you don't feel worthy of it, utilize that. Utilize those connections for support. Let people help you. Like, I know that there's like a real thing about like not wanting to owe people or feeling like you have to get yourself out of everything. But think about the fact that humans are social creatures, and sometimes we need a helping hand to get out of a situation, or we need support while we take the time to get well enough to make those changes we need. You can support yourself by doing what you can to nurture yourself, to give your body, your mind, your spirit, and your emotional body what it needs to feel regulated and supported. But not only that, if there are people in your life that are willing to help you financially, materially, in any way that would just make your life easier, whether it's coming and cleaning your house for you, or being a listening ear, or bringing you leftover meals so you don't have to worry, or just helping you in a way that you are unable to help yourself right now, stop saying no to that. That is an excellent example of a choice that you are making because you don't feel worthy of it, and you are reinforcing what you think you don't deserve. There are people in your life that want to help you, and it's quite possible you push them away because you don't feel deserving. And maybe you need to make some sort of agreement. Maybe it needs to be on your terms. Maybe you need to be giving something in return. But whatever it is, don't push away help because you don't feel good enough for it or it makes you feel guilty. If you do that, it will be hard for you to receive in general. And you deserve so much more than what you give yourself credit for. And I definitely feel like there are people in your life that want to help you. And if you don't have those people, they're coming in and you're bringing them in right now. And part of that is coming from recognizing that you deserve that sort of support. And whether it is someone you already know or it requires you to ask for help, please, please, please do that. It will be worth it, I promise. The minor blow to the ego or the discomfort you might experience in asking for help or accepting help will be so worth the support you end up receiving and the relief that comes from that. It's like getting the world's best bra after years of saying that your titties weren't worth being supported. Your poor back. Dumb example, but whatever. Okay, so now I want to see evidence, how you'll know that you're breaking this cycle, how you'll know you're setting yourself free, the evidence that you will witness in the material realm to show that you're doing the thing, you're healing the thing. What evidence will pile number 3 see that will show that they are healing this cycle and breaking it in their world. What will the evidence of this healing be? What will the evidence of this broken cycle be? I think one of the biggest pieces of evidence is stronger. You're going to have more financially. Not only that, you're going to have the energy to work on things and invest in what you believe in ways you didn't have the energy to before. And one thing you're going to realize is that you had this energy in the past, but you gave it away to other commitments and other things you felt obligated or like you had to do instead. Another thing that you're going to find is that you might get a new job, a job that sets you free when you're healing this cycle. It's like you're gonna, like, this job's gonna come to you when you've accepted that you're worthy of more. And there's the thing, you can consciously know that you're worthy of more, but there's a difference between knowing that and truly embodying it. Because you might know with your conscious mind you deserve better, but your subconscious mind is like, nope, 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 and doesn't agree. It takes time and it takes energy for that change. But what you're going to find is that you have more energy to invest in yourself. And not only that, you're going to be receiving opportunities that you didn't before. I would be willing to bet you're going to be getting job offers, you're going to be getting job opportunities, and you're going to have the time and energy to put yourself out there in ways that you didn't before. You're going to be able to invest in yourself in ways that you couldn't previously, because you were spread so thin and believed that you needed to prove yourself worthy to make others realize that you're worthy of investing in. You already are worthy of investing in. Start by investing in yourself. Health is wealth. That's one thing. You're going to have the energy to work on your health, improve your routines, and things are going to be coming together for you in the material realm in ways they seemed seemingly impossible before. And you're going to be like, wow, all I had to do was shift my belief systems and actually, just act on the changes I know that would support these beliefs. You're going to be like, I wish I had made these changes a long time ago. But honestly, just be happy you made them when you did. Can't change the past. Okay, Next, I want to get a message for you from the souls that you are helping by breaking this cycle. So this could be future generations, this could be ancestors, this could be people in your periphery or people that will be positively affected just that you may never even know just because you've made these changes. So to the souls that will benefit from the work pile number 3 is doing, what do they want pile number 3 to know? What is their message? Stop lying to yourself. Stop believing you are unworthy, and stop the self-betrayal. Stop the self-deception. Stop believing in illusions that keep you trapped in this world that is way too small and way, way, way too constricting for your beautiful, powerful spirit. There's a whole world out there for you. And anytime you believe that it's over, or that it can't change, or that nothing can get better, or that your opportunities are dried up, or that everything will always go to shit, you can't change, all of that you need to let go of, because none of it is true, and all of it reinforces subconscious belief that pushes away the very opportunities your soul is craving. They want you to know that it's not a bad thing to believe in these deceptions and illusions. There's a reason why they exist, and there's a reason why they're common. It takes real strength to be willing to see through them, and it also takes real strength to trust in what your heart is telling you, even when all you can see is that deception and illusion. When your only truth is that things can't get better and that you won't be supported. But that isn't the case. And I think more than anything, what they want you to know is that there are so many beings on the other side that are conspiring to help and support you and lead you down the right path. I mean, hey, they led you to this video, and hopefully if you're here this far, that it's been at least somewhat helpful for you. The universe is never going to stop conspiring to get you to see truth, to see beauty, to see your worth, to see that you can have more, to see that you can feel good now, that you can have more peace, that you can create more than you've ever realized, and that the only barrier between you and those realities are the belief of whether you can get there or not, and the willingness to accept what it takes to get there, and to accept whatever length of time it might require. You know, pentacles are pretty slow moving, but that doesn't mean that these opportunities will be slow moving. I think it really depends on how well you're able to integrate these changes of belief to the point where they become a living expression of those beliefs. I think that it's time for you to stop self-sabotaging and to stop believing you're in this alone, because you're not. And you're not the only person that you're benefiting by believing you're worthy of more. There are a lot of people out there who need to see someone that can lead by example, and to see that your material circumstances do not determine your happiness, which is kind of a radical thing in a capitalist society, right? I mean, pretty much all of advertising hinges on the idea that this thing will make you happy. And guess what? It never fucking does. Like, watch Mad Men. Watch Mad Men, because you should watch Mad Men, because Mad Men is one of the best shows ever written. But watch Mad Men, because I mean, it just hammers this shit home over and over and over and over and over again. You could be the ideal, you could be perfect, and you still wouldn't feel like enough. It's about accepting yourself, accepting who you are, accepting where you're at, and accepting that things can change, and that if the only way they can't is if you're not open to it and don't believe it's possible, and are unwilling to look at how you could, unwilling to look at what beliefs, what behaviors, and what patterns you may be engaging in that reinforce this idea that things can't change. Sometimes it's right under our nose and we can't even see it, and then later it's super obvious. But I think just by looking at your daily routine, you can see where self-betrayal occurs. Do you give yourself a bedtime, or do you doom scroll instead? Do you read fearful narratives online that reinforce the ideas of what isn't possible? Or do you read something that uplifts you and opens you to hopeful possibilities? Do you spend time with people that are generous and giving towards you? Do you let yourself receive generosity from others? Or do you give and give and give to depletion and feel that's the only way you are deserving of connection? All these things matter. And what you're going to find is that you're so much more capable than you realized, and that these blessings were always available to you. You just had to recognize how you were blocking them and be open to receiving them and accepting that you are worthy of them, that they're not something you have to earn or prove you're worthy of, but just accept your divine birthright. Accept your right to receive, and your right to be supported by the abundant universe that loves you the same way it loves every other person on this earth. Okay. Finally, I want to look at blessings and positive outcomes that you will make possible as a result of breaking this cycle that wouldn't be possible if you didn't. So, Spirit, what blessings and positive outcomes are possible for pile 3 as a result of their hard work? Healing, but we're going deeper than that. Yeah. Balance on a deep and spiritual level. Growth and expansion that's not only sustainable, but empowering on a philosophical and spiritual level. Healing of lack mentality, healing of low self-esteem, healing of all the things that have made your heart feel like it can't be a part of your life because it's just too painful. You're going to be able to live life in a way where not only are you able to receive the blessings you deserve, but you're going to be able to feel how good it feels to receive them and to accept them and to unapologetically embrace them instead of feeling guilt and shame for it. There are so many people that receive everything their heart desires and they're never able to appreciate it because of the stories they tell themselves or the mental stories that keep them trapped and stuck in stories that like make them suffer and make them feel like shit and make them feel imbalanced and make them feel like it's never enough. you're moving towards a life that is more balanced, that is more aligned with what you've always wanted. And in the process, a lot of the aspects of life that made you feel like you had to suppress your emotional body, that the things your heart believes in aren't real or are fickle or futile, you're going to realize they're essential parts of life and necessary in order to move through its challenges. What you're going to realize too is you're going to recognize how the stories you tell yourself keep your heart from opening. You know, painful experiences can break our heart, but we can break them over and over again by repeating stories, even if they're not appearing in the world around us. What you're going to realize is that one of the biggest blessings you're going to have is recognizing that your process of evolution is a process and a journey, and one that cannot be rushed. But also, I think one blessing that you're going to realize is that everything is in perfect time, that you're growing and evolving as you're meant to, and that the keys to receiving a lot of what you want has nothing to do with concrete physical action outside of you, but has a lot more to do with making those changes within you that will allow you to make supportive changes outside of you. And that starts with looking at what isn't working and what isn't right, and being willing to change our belief systems, especially when they don't uplift and empower us to the type of life we want to live. Belief systems are free. Attitudes are free. Breath work, nature, those things are free. Utilize the beautiful things in life that are free, because that will remind you that those are really the best things, and those are the things nobody can take from you. Those are the things that everybody can enjoy and appreciate, and those are the things that will never fail you. No matter what is happening in the world around you, you will always have those things to lean on and remind you of the goodness in the world and the goodness within you that is often, you know, veiled by the messy systems we live in. Just because the system we live in is messy doesn't mean you have to be a part of that. Just because we're encouraged to be fearful doesn't mean you have to be. And just because it's normal to be negative doesn't mean you have to let yourself be. Doesn't mean you should suppress that and tell yourself you're wrong for being that way, but you're just allowed to choose different and choose lightness and choose ease and joy if you want to. And it's openness to that leads to infinite new pathways, to possibilities you couldn't have dreamt of, and the realization you were always worthy and always capable of having those things. It was just a matter of believing in yourself and saying yes to yourself so that you could be open to receive. So pile 3, that's where I'm going to leave this reading. I really hope this made sense, and I really hope that this was helpful. Thank you guys so much for watching, and thank you so much for letting my ads play in the background, because that is one of the simplest and easiest ways to show support and appreciation for my channel. If you'd like to show support in other ways, you can like this video, you can comment down below, let me know how it resonates. You can subscribe if you haven't already. Be sure to click that little notification bell to be notified whenever I upload a new reading. You can like, you can comment. Thank you to everyone who shares. You can subscribe if you haven't already. You can check out my candles, you can check out my merch, you can check out my social media, you can check out other videos, but that is all I have for you guys. So thank you so much for watching and for letting me read for you. I really hope that this reading gave you what you needed and you're feeling a bit more confident in yourself. I believe in you, and I hope you believe in yourself too. I love you guys so much. I hope you all have a wonderful day or night whenever it is that you're watching this, and I hope you'll come back and see me again soon. Bye!